video. It's just everything is slow.
Oh yeah.
It's bad. Okay. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to another Smudcast. And here we have Glib and Shiney joining me for another strange ramble about Star Wars. It's hard to say. I watched a few minutes of this, and it's a combination of good ideas and really strange ideas and rambles and rants, and somehow it meshes into the Rise of Skywalker. I haven't gotten that far yet, so yeah, it's a
This
weird one.
guy.
This guy's name is let's see. Um, I am that Robbie. Okay,
Okay.
10 out of 10 name.
I don't know, but it's pretty much him just without a script and rambling in front of the
He
camera.
looks, just from the profile picture, he looks a little bit familiar, but I don't recognize him specifically.
I think we'll have a lot of pausing because it's so.
EFAP probably covered him on Captain Marvel or something like that.
It's possible because his ideas are random. It's just like, oh, he's saying some good stuff, and then all of a sudden he goes off on a wild tangent about crazy stuff. Like, oh, I like the metaphysical nature of the romance. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, someone, Aura Master said that this is the guy with the Captain Marvel defense, probably telling the EFAP.
All right. Well, this is the first I've heard of him, so let's go. Let's go right in.
Oh, I really hope that he's gonna like The Last Jedi and hate T-Ross. Is that the case?
I think so.
Yes. We're gonna have some fun today, boys.
I'm liking the intro. That was a great intro.
I mean, I'm not. It just seems funny to me because being this upset by it, because there's such a huge.
Are you sure? Are you sure you want to say?
It's hard to describe.
you
It's
sure
hard
you
to
want to say
describe
that?
because this reaction is like, oh, you shouldn't react to this. You shouldn't be angry about a film because it's all about not letting go into the dark side, blah 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 blah. And then the same problems kind of occur with sort of So the same problems, also all the problems that are in Rise of Skywalker are in Last Jedi. Just that on Rise of Skywalker, they're a lot more noticeable.
I think it's reasonable to like The Last Jedi and think like, wow, Star Wars is starting to be like what I want it to be. And then you see The Rise of Skywalker and all that rug just gets pulled underneath you. Like, nope, that Rian Johnson shit was a mistake. We're walking it back. We're walking it back. And then all these people are upset because
I was wrong. A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
PSA Sitch did a great video on that, and he does the back and forth and makes fun of that.
Can you imagine J.J. Abrams trying to top up Rian Johnson? Like, oh, Ryan has great setups, great ideas. I'm gonna run with that. Wait a second, I can't. Let me just fall back on more lens flares and explosions and copy pasting.
I think
What else
that
is he
it
gonna
would
do?
have been even more amazing if in the Rise of Skywalker, they just kind of went full throttle with all of Rian Johnson's stuff. Like they full on, just make it as bad as you possibly can. Just go on full on, like Rey and Kylo. Go full on, like Luke keeps throwing his father's lightsaber away and disrespecting it, like constant pissing on the Jedi.
He's like throwing it, swings around. He's like, this is garbage. This is crap.
Constant subverting expectations.
I would have gone in the opposite direction. I would have just completely flipped it and been like, the most extreme version is it was all a dream, but then a fun version would be like, Ryan Johnson. Sorry, not Ryan Johnson. Luke never died. He was just doing 2 images so that he could see the sunset before he went back home or something like that.
He's just back in his house,
And he
like,
was
oh
just
yeah,
cold.
I'm fine.
Yeah, he just has a robe over there so that he feels warm in his little projection.
He teleports
Just
around
like-
the island. He just constantly teleports. He's like, no problem. I'm a Jedi master. I do this every day.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I wasn't dying. I was forced teleportation.
Luke became so powerful he could project himself anywhere in the universe, but
It's
he
like
had to
that-
be at the center of the
It's
Jedi's
like that
power,
really
which is on
stupid,
Octo.
was it Warp 10 in Voyager? It's like you can be everywhere at once, and that's just what happened to Luke. Luke was just everywhere.
That was a weird episode, by the way.
I
Anyway,
would have loved some exposition.
You don't say that the one episode where they break the Warp 10 barrier, they're absolutely everywhere at once, and they turn into weird lizard things. You wouldn't say that's a weird episode. What's
just sorry, Smud, to interrupt you. Hold that thought. But just as the conclusion for that part, it reminds me of that next generation episode where they are like in all the timelines split, and then there's like a billion timelines at the same time.
That was
and they opened up way too many boxes. But yeah, Smud, you were saying
yeah, if there was like if JJ said, hey, you know that power that Luke had or Snoke had to teleport or do things very long distance, if he just focused on that and provided a whole plot line with the exposition of how Luke and Snoke did that, I would be okay with that. Hey, great, you're actually filling in a hole. And it would be neat. Yeah. It would be, why is Luke there? Why is Snoke there? Why are they so far apart?
And then if she returned to Octo, like, you could... you know how she has the lightsaber at the end? Why not make it so that Luke left her like breadcrumbs so that underneath Octo there's like a cave and there's all these crystals and she can choose what lightsaber crystal she wants.
And he was putting a whole big act so that even Snoke would not find Luke Skywalker threatening.
Boom. There you go. You did it. It works again. And all we gotta do is find a way to justify why Luke died. Maybe he was doing something else at the same time. Maybe when he was doing that, he was broadcasting that image into the minds of all the people at once, so everybody could see that happen. And then that was why he was exhausted. He sent out a signal to everybody in the world through the Force, and then they got a vision or a dream of him getting killed by Kylo Ren, and that's what made the legend of Luke Skywalker.
Every time we do this, we fix problems. We're like, oh, geez, this is going to go on forever.
I wouldn't say it's fixing problems. It's just less of a problem to do it that way.
Well, you know, if you have a writer in the room who knows what they're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. When you become a CEO of a failing company, you have to figure out what you're going to do.
Admittedly, we don't have like 2 years to write this story.
We could do it in 2 days, honestly. It wouldn't take that long.
Star Wars is already set up with all of the plot elements, all of the themes and motifs and stuff, and it has all the characters baked in. All you got to do is figure out where they are next, right? And that's a fan's job. That's a George fan job. Why didn't they hire them? I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, let's keep going.
Rise of Skywalker is officially here. It's been here for over a week now, and I personally feel like that's enough time to let the general conscious set in and let people decide for themselves how they feel about the movie. I've had a whole week to really dwell on it and think about it, and unlike any Star Wars movie ever made, this one is divisive. What the fuck? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. The Rise of Skywalker is a perfectly fine movie. It just is. You know, I could even argue it's a good movie. It's well shot. It's got beautiful acting. The story works.
That doesn't specifically make it a good film, as there's more things, just the writing and cinematography. There's more things than just the cinematography and the act.
But why can't we contest those notions? What's so great about the acting that makes it beautiful? Like, what moment is beautiful in that movie?
Yeah,
and then
I would say specifically Daisy Ridley's acting.
It's a very strange thing to have a title that says it disappoints, but it's perfectly fine. I don't know.
Oh, I would even argue it's a good film.
I saw more genuine emotion in the behind-the-scenes footage of the actors just palling around than I did in the movie, and that's embarrassing. And then cinematography, I don't think has ever been JJ's strong point. I just think that he's maximized the ability to distract people with camera movement, jitter, lens flares. He loves doing like a sweep. He likes going from one shot and then quickly panning so you get that blur effect, and then ending on another shot, and then doing like a slight push in where it like goes to a Dutch angle and tilts slightly to the right or the left, because he's always trying to add emphasis to every action, and he can't slow down because he doesn't have substance. And that's the problem with JJ, is that he's just like, he's surfing memes and what do people remember about this? Oh yeah, lightsabers, blah, and then he just runs with it. And he does that every movie, and people didn't pick up on it until Star Wars. Even Mr. Plinkett was fooled.
even if this film had like the best acting and the best cinematography, that still wouldn't necessarily make it good.
Yeah, it's true.
A good actor
Also needs to kind
can
of clarify a
salvage
little bit
a
more.
bad script, but it's still a bad script. So
Yes, and the story is what everything centers around. So if the core is wrong and rotten, then it doesn't matter. You know, you can have a good performance. Legend is a good performance by Tom Hardy, but it's a horrible script. It's boring. So you can't really save it just with acting, I don't think.
Let's just see what else he says.
he seems to be talking with his arms a lot. I like that.
It's very cool to see lightsabers, and
Does
you
it?
know, if you just
Lightsabers are cool.
It's
okay.
cool to see lightsabers.
What a great argument.
That is an argument.
Guns are cool.
Lightsabers.
Spaceships are cool. Okay, we're watching a sci-fi. We get it.
want to see a satisfying film, one that puts this trilogy to rest for the time being, concludes the story, then you will like The Rise of Skywalker. However, I don't know if being just a fine movie is really...
One sec, puts the trilogy at rest for the time being.
What the
I
hell
assume
does
he's
that
talking in
mean?
terms of making film. Well, it is the last film, so yes, the trilogy is coming to an end. I assume he's trying to talk about the Skywalker Saga quotation mark.
I guess he means there's more stuff to come.
Well, I think he's specifically talking about the Skywalker Saga, but he said the trilogy, but this would be the end of the trilogy, otherwise it wouldn't be a trilogy.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. He is very expressive, I could tell you that much, though. So his thoughts and his hands aren't matching up very well. It's like he really wants to tell us something, and his whole body's shaking.
I've seen that. You see that a lot when people are they don't have much of a point, so they have to overemphasize with gestures. That's not uncommon at all.
I hope he has a script to fall back on, because I don't know where he's getting these ideas.
enough when you consider what this movie is. It's not only the conclusion of a
I would argue it is nowhere near a fine movie. It is a terrible movie in a lot of aspects. It revolves completely around MacGuffins and convenience. Like a JJ film. It needs convenience. Oh, look, they conveniently landed in the exact same place they needed to be, and that they fall down and it doesn't kill them. They come across this knife and freaking Darfucci Jedi.
Well, it doesn't work as its own movie, does it? It doesn't work as a standalone because the villain comes from 4 movies ago, and I don't think any of the characters' motivations are explained or they go through an arc. I mean, what are the arcs that Poe and Finn go through in this movie?
Yeah, aside from the weird stuff that happens at the beginning, those are just characters running away from the bad guys. They meet up with other heroes who then runs away.
Poe doesn't really have any arc or development. Finn doesn't have any arc or development. They try to do some kind of development with Rey, but it goes fuck all nowhere. She's the exact same character at the end of the film as she is at the beginning.
It reminds me of an episode of Scooby-Doo mixed with G.I. Joe. Like, there are the gang, and we all know who their characters are. They don't have to really go through an arc. You just get what their personalities are. Like, oh, you know that Shaggy's going to be nervous. You know that Scoob is going to be laughing and snickering at something. And then that's what all the characters do. Chewbacca does the Chewbacca thing. And you have...
Chewbacca's going to be flying in the co-pilot seat. Rey's going to do something and not get any repercussions for it.
Yeah, and then at the end, literally, it's like they have the part where he goes like, "I've been every voice inside your head," and I'm just like, "Oh, it was Old Man Palpatine." I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for these damn Jedi. That's what it feels like.
Very pulpy, I would say. Yeah. Here's a super chat from Andrew Clark. Thank you, sir. Working memory, we can only keep track of 7 plus and minus 2. That's true if you know your first year psych. JJ knows how to string the audience along, making them forget stuff that goes nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both those are good chats.
Pretty surface level, pretty vapid stuff from JJ. Most past 10 years, really, I think. Star Trek, Star Wars. What a weird thing to put the Star Trek guy... Well, to put the guy in front of Star Trek first, and then to go, hey, you know what'd be good? He'd be great for Star Wars. It's like, oh.
That was he was advertising all of his skills for Star Wars in the first Star Trek movie. I am assured by that.
Things
because
with like Alex Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams, they both don't want to make any kind of Trek. They just want to make fast-paced sci-fi, fast shots, fast action.
Do they even want to make anything, or do they just go, oh, we can make this next? Because I get the impression like they just have a formula and they repeat the formula over and over again, even if it's a different movie. Like every movie that he makes is the same kind of movie. Mission Impossible.
Why are there people in the chat talking about how they have a thing for Velma?
Because Velma's a cutie pie. No, I'm just kidding. It's because they're too beta to get Daphne.
I want to hear this guy talk with his arms more, so let's keep going.
Trilogy that started in 2015, it's the conclusion of the Skywalker Saga. So I don't know if it's just me.
It is.
No, it isn't. No, it's not the conclusion of the Skywalker Saga. This legit has nothing to do with the last 6 films. There is no connection between episode 6 and 7. There is no
Palpatine
Saga. Palpatine just kind of comes back and he's like, I'm back now, bitches.
If it was like Luke was like, I had to hide myself because I knew there was a darker force out there. I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't Snoke. It was something deeper. And then he dies. He goes, oh, now I know the secret. But even then, where were the other dead Jedi? Didn't they know that? Didn't they know something about the universe and galaxy?
Yeah, where's they had a golden opportunity to bring every single Jedi actor back or get somebody else like their brother or their cousin, have this big reunion and have a great moment where all the cast can come together and you can publish that photo after the movie comes out. They have no awareness of society or PR or storytelling at all, yet they're in charge of this.
I think having all the Jedi there was incredibly stupid, and it obviously just breaks of like how Jedi are supposed to exist in the Force after.
When people were talking about, I think Shiney was talking about the ending. I was just hearing it before I watched the movie, of course. I was like, oh, they're doing the Lord of the Rings things where they bring all the ghosts out and they just start attacking. That'd be awesome. It's like, nope.
Nope. No, I thought that was like a Goblet of Fire, where it was going to be like
how the Force ghosts work. They shouldn't be able to interact with the world, and they shouldn't.
No, but they should. It would be great to see them standing there against Palpatine because it'd be symbolic of the Jedi's life and immortality. Yes,
but there's only a very limited amount of people who are the Force ghosts. For example,
then only show them.
Galia and a lot of the other Jedi would not be able to become Force ghosts because they didn't learn it from the way.
That's fine, though.
I would have liked to seen Samuel L. Jackson on the screen as a benevolent ghost, but really intense. Like, that would have been great.
Yeah, but what you like doesn't necessarily mean what makes sense.
Well, compared to what we got.
No.
I mean,
you're saying it's not making sense based on canon. And I can use Shiney. I can use your canon laws, and I can make a good scene out of it because I understand what is in canon. I understand the tier system, and then I understand how to functionally put that into a context. So they just didn't do that.
Also makes the Clone Wars argument, because obviously what I'm talking about is from Clone Wars. You can go into episode 3. It is specifically taught, like Yoda says, Qui-Gon will teach you how to exist after life or something, blah 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 blah, in episode 3. Right. So even then, it's from that film, and the kind of surprise everyone has on its face, I would very much doubt that the other Jedi would be able to become Force ghosts.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Well, whoever can, in the history of Force ghosts, if they're facing down against the penultimate enemy of a 9-part episode series, then you would want to have
so the ones I can think of are possibly Ahsoka, what was it, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Yoda, Luke, and Anakin.
But those are all from the prequels. We could even go deeper into the lore and set up a Chekhov's gun ahead of time and go, okay, we're going to have Force ghosts.
Oh, here's Darth Revan.
Okay, so all of these characters could be like the avatars from the Avatar: The Last Airbender thing, where over the course of the movie, they could all teach Rey something. They could all give her a piece. So like Mace Windu could teach her, what is it, Style 7 Vapad or whatever he has, his special almost dark side lightsaber style. And then you could have, anything. You could have all of the lessons from the entire saga be summarized and have Rey learn all of them. and then be
But
empowered by
I
it.
don't think
But
that's
here's the
necessary for the story either. I understand that. Okay, ignoring the Samuel L. Jackson like not being able to come back because or possibly anyway, it's like Samuel L. Jackson doesn't like to believe that Mace Windu's dead. But I think it would be a bit too fan servicey just to kind of like throw that in and try and kind of go over what's already happened within the trilogy just so you can have Samuel L. Jackson there.
Smud,
think
do
you
you mind
need-
if I Smud, do you mind if I just go on a tangent really quick? Just as a question.
Let's have 5 minutes. Sure. Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we're talking about the necessity of this character being able to go through a journey which they don't go through because there's no fan service. And so my question is, this is the tangent. Fan service, is that a negative connotation that you're using, or are you using that like giving fans what they want?
Okay, so when it comes to fan service, the way I describe it is you're doing something, for the fans. However, you shouldn't just do something for the sake of fan service. Fan service should be something that's more.
So the definition that you're working with is doing something for the fans. That was what the first part. Okay, and then the second part is your take on it, right? Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to fan service,
before you, I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is these movies don't have fan service. They have references and nostalgia bait, but they don't actually give the fans the the servicing that they want. It's like, you go to the massage parlor or whatever, and they're not going to give you the ending that you want. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think these movies need more fan service, and I think that the fan service needs to be aware that it can't be I think what you're getting at is like just a reference that's hollow. Because I think that if these movies were full of fan service, but it was written in a really good way, then people would be really happy about that.
Yeah, but just to try and finish my point, like fan service shouldn't be. So, for example, if you just had an entire part of the plot that was just there and it didn't make any sense, just so let's say Kylo could go to Vader's castle from Rogue One, or just so you could have even if it didn't make any sense, you had
right?
Mace Windu just randomly come in.
You're making the contrition that it makes no sense, but if it did make sense, it'd be good, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like with like the master, let's say Mace Windu, maybe he was taught these techniques to preserve himself as a Force ghost. Maybe if you focus on the philosophy of what made him Mace Windu, the same with the philosophy of Yoda.
It very much depends on how you go about.
Oh, I agree. But this is what a writer knows what they're doing. They would write it a certain way so that the whole story is about this build-up to philosophy of what does Rey need to do to win. What's the lesson she needs to learn? What did Luke not learn, or what did Luke try and teach or not teach, and that what was missing? And we get to that, and we bring all that because there's no one alive, right? We have no one else to teach her. Leia's, I don't know what Leia's gonna. She's not a philosopher. She's not a master. Apparently, she's some practitioner, but they just gave her powers. And you're like, oh, now Leia's got stuff, and she's been training Rey. Really? Okay. That's like they did stupid shit, and even a writer would take that and work with that properly. So obviously when we say, well, what happens if you bring back something that's meaningful, and then you go, well, they brought Yoda back, that was garbage. Like, I agree, but we could have used Yoda in a much better way. We could have used the X-Wing in a much better way, etc., etc. So
I would say
I think we've talked more about this than we have the actual video.
Well, no, that's good. We had a little, couple minute segment there, but I just wanted to emphasize that on this point that the connotation of fan service being like, oh, we're just going to give the fans, a reference. Oh, look, it's the Enterprise, but it's not really the Enterprise and it has nothing to do with the story. That's not the kind of fan service that I enjoy. What I really want to see is fan fulfillment. I want to see the fans leave the theater on episode 9 or 8 or 7 or whatever and go, wow,
like when
we waited 30 years and it was worth it.
When you saw Yoda in episode 2 jump around like a doll, a lot of people rolled their eyes, but a lot of people went, wow, Yoda, he's amazing. He can do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Because I enjoyed that, but I also see it's cheesy, but I like that he's the best. He's like the most hyper dude, even though he's this old, slow man. That's what George was going for. And I think that juxtaposition is one of George's strengths.
Yeah, he's only 800 years old.
Yeah, because it's like the Darth Jar Jar thing. Like they could have gone and made Darth Jar Jar be like the opposite of Yoda, where he's the goofy guy, but he's the one behind the scenes pulling all the strings. He just didn't execute it totally right. But that juxtaposition, I feel like, makes it ultimately in storytelling. I feel like the most basic form of storytelling is a character starts on one end and ends up on the opposite. Like that's the most basic character arc. Anyway,
Right. Let's keep going. Okay.
I was kind of expecting something more than fine. The truly weird thing about this movie is that it feels like it was written by a bunch of Reddit.
I wasn't from these films.
And I don't mean that in the sarcastic, oh, the writing's bad way. I mean it in the weird way that this film needs to tie everything together. It just doesn't. It really doesn't. It's a sort of amalgamation of a bunch of Reddit theories and fan theories on the internet since 2015. And it really does feel like that. You know, this movie is just confused.
I would very much disagree on if that's what it is. I think it's more what he's referring to is probably how they're trying to fill all the holes and problems with The Last Jedi, such as trying to fill in Rey's parentage and trying to fill in like who's been telling Kylo all these things through the mask and blah blah.
I think his reference is a bit off. He was talking about fanfiction.net, and they took someone who had some crazy fanfic about Palpatine coming back, and then someone took that idea and did another fanfic, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I would closely associate with the movie, because the movie is a mess, and there's just like multiple people just doing this scene and then doing that scene with the premise of Palpatine at the end. That's what I would see, not Reddit. Reddit's kind of a giant board of people disagreeing with each other. So
it's funny that he's saying that it ties the Skywalker Saga together, but then it doesn't really have to. Very
well, no, he
cognitive
does
dissonant.
it ties it together, and then he says it doesn't tie anything together.
It doesn't have to,
So
which I think
does-
is cognitive dissonance.
No, but does it tie it together or doesn't it? Because he said it does, and then he later says that it doesn't tie it together.
It's confusing.
What's he on about?
His rant is very off the cuff, and it doesn't follow what he just said. In case you haven't noticed, it's kind of, I think this, then I felt this, then I'm off on a tangent, then I'll come back to this, and it's like, okay, what?
It is. That's
As
exactly
you
what
can
it is.
see, why the Rise of Skywalker disappoints, but he says it's a fine movie. It's just not fine enough. It's just fine. You're like, what? What are you?
It's not great.
What are you talking about?
He's trying to set up a goalpost, so it's like at the bottom level, it's fine. Okay, you can't say this is a bad movie, guys. It's fine. And then he
I think
also
we
wants to
can say it's a
complain
terrible
downwards.
film.
Right, of course we can, but that's what he's trying to do. And then at the top of it, he's trying to say it's not as good as it could have been. So he has this range, but we're all the way at the bottom. Like, no, dude, it's awful all the way up.
About what it really wants to say. I'm not sure if the movie wants you to look back on nostalgia fondly or to majorly question it. The movie doesn't give me an answer. It says you can do both, which I fucking disagree with. The movie seems to end with the implication that we need to literally bury the past.
It's time to let old things die.
I mean, Rey at the end of the film buries Luke and Leia's lightsabers deep within the sands of Tatooine.
Who else took, burying the lightsabers is burying the past? I did not take it as burying the past whatsoever.
That's because
did.
it was too confusing. It was hard to reference what was going on. And this is even from the previous movie, where this is Kylo's message to the audience saying, yeah, just stop what you're doing. Stop.
Kill the past.
Let go of everything you were before. Now you have to be yourself, whatever that is. Just be it. Which is fine. It's a message of Kylo, and he's the bad guy, so it's fine. But then we see Rey.
No, but then people took that message seriously. Like, fans of this film
Yeah.
thought that killing your past is a good message.
Really?
Just let that come in from the bad guy. Yeah. No, okay. People back me up, right? Because there were people like Boogie29A, or what his name is, ended up saying, "Oh, killing the past is a great message for a film," and talking about, because the way they've interpreted it is like somehow letting go of your past, when killing your past means something very different.
This is not like you've had traumatic experience that's holding you back, or you're stuck in a rut. It's not. That's not the message.
From personal experience, yeah, you need to move past, what happened in your past. But killing your past is not the same, or killing the past more specifically to the quote.
Or literally killing your dad. Yeah, that's not. a good message at all. So I don't see how a villain saying that is clear to be a good thing. That's why it's tonally dead in many parts of that movie, especially with the interactions between Kylo and Rey, which should have been the focus. The antagonist and the protagonist getting together magically and having these stupid conversations that don't go anywhere. They're flirting, they're not flirting. She's suddenly lonely, and then she wants to reach out to him because apparently Chewie's not friendly enough. Big giant dog man doesn't want to, befriend Rey
Just give him
anymore.
a treat.
Yeah.
Just give him a little doggy snack.
Guy
Snack.
hugs everyone. It's like, no, Rey, you're alone. Go talk to the psychotic killer who wants to manipulate you. Yeah, it's a great idea, Rey. Thanks.
You know what they do? They can't write the progression of the plot from anything other than a MacGuffin sense, from like the audience's goal-oriented mission format of a movie. There's never a scene progression where it's like these two characters are going to come together for this scene, and then the synthesis of their dialogue leads to the next event. Like what Matt Stone and Trey Parker were saying about something happens, then this happens, but this happens.
Oh, yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? So the but changes the story. So in terms of linking the sequences together, you go, okay, these two characters are going to have an agreement, and then that'll change each of their individual perceptions, or they'll have a disagreement, and then that changes the disposition of the group. And that can create a whole layer of the story of melodrama. And that does not exist in these movies. The characters don't have interpersonal relationships with conflict that have any meaning or depth to them, because they never talk to each other about things that have nothing to do necessarily with the MacGuffin plot, but with their internal desires and needs. We never get a conversation between Finn and Rey, where Finn is just like, hey, Rey, how's it going? Like, how's the Jedi stuff going? And she can be like, well, I'm having trouble with this. Hey, you want to go talk about it? Yeah, let's go for a walk. I'll show you what I'm talking about. There's no personal conversation. We don't get to meet them and hang out with them like regular people.
Well, there's a lot of problems with the Rise of Skywalker. That is certainly something lacking from the show that has some connection to the characters as people, or trying to be people on the screen, interacting, saying, "Oh, the Millennium Falcon's on fire. Yeah, let's argue about that. Who's a better pilot?" And
you wrecked the Falcon. Oh, you wrecked BB-8. Blah, 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 blah. They're both fixed in like 5 seconds. Like the next scene, they're both perfectly fine. Why are they arguing about this?
It's a fluff piece. It's a series of action pieces surrounded by fluff.
It's trying to build like some kind of drama between these two characters, or some kind, like they don't like each other. Like they're trying to give depth, but it's really fucking shallow.
Think about like some of the best movies that we have, like I don't know, a Taxi Driver style movie. We know so much about Travis because we spend so much time with him in his world, and we learn pieces of the plot come through him doing normal things in his environment. So there's a normality that's created that the audience can get adjusted to. So when that changes based on one of the parts of the MacGuffin plot or whatever the overarching plot is, like he watches Palantine on TV and then he decides he wants to support him, that changes his entire motive.
It really helps when you have the main character be the narrator, and he's talking to the audience like you're reading a book. Like he's the one giving you the information. The same way when you watch Memento, you're like, this is a really confusing movie, but you have the guy's inner voice talking to you. It's now I'm running. I'm running from. No, I'm running at. No, I'm running away. Okay, like that sort of thing to fill you in on what's actually going on in this person's head. And even that would have been nice to have Daisy just sort of sit back and just say, okay, where am I? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. In a movie, like it's so great in a novel, you can write internal character thoughts after dialogue. You can go like, oh, I said this, and then he thinks this, and all that kind of stuff. And then in a movie, that's usually done through dialogue. So you have
just because someone mentioned it in the comments. So just I can't even say this guy's name, but it's a comment by him. It says, "I'm sure Anakin White lightsaber is buried in Padme's tomb or wherever she's buried on the." It's like, yeah, that would be a much better place to put Anakin's lightsaber, other than the fucking sand that Anakin hates so much.
I wasn't quite sure about what was going on in that scene. So
I honestly would have think it would have been better scene if Rey put the lightsaber in Padme's tomb. Like it would have been.
I don't like them burying lightsabers. I like the idea of her giving the lightsaber to a new cadet or something. Maybe
But
give
you
it to
don't need to give the lightsaber to a new Padawan because Padawans make their own lightsaber.
Well, then why does Rey have a lightsaber that fell off of Bespin?
Because for some strange reason, Rey doesn't make her own lightsaber till the very end of the fucking film.
And we never see it. There's no conflict. It's just she has one. You're like, oh. Same way Luke just has Leia's lightsaber just because. It's like, what?
Every time the Mary Sue gets an item, it's something that would be more fun to see her earn.
Or have conflict with or have value to the story. Like she just gets it. She just makes one. So that's it. That's the whole point. It's like, why? Why show us that?
Like the in Jedi Fallen Order, I think it's pretty fine to ruin Jedi Fallen Order a little bit. Spoil. So when it comes to the story of Jedi Fallen Order, there's this moment where you end up losing your lightsaber, and you have to go and make it yourself. And it's a great moment in the story because your lightsaber's gone, you're defenseless, and you're going for this emotional moment, and you've been destroyed, and then you've kind of managed to build your own lightsaber again, and it kind of goes back onto that high. It can serve a purpose in the story to build your own lightsaber, and that's what I think the sequel should have done with Rey. They should have had her lose Anakin's lightsaber, and then you probably could have done it in like episode 8, and then you could have had her build her own lightsaber. But obviously, Rey's never going to be vulnerable or down in any sense ever.
All right, let's keep going.
So it's a literal way of saying we're moving past all this bullshit. We're doing new stuff. But then less than 30 seconds later, the movie does a callback to the original film from 1977. So I don't know if it's just me.
That's because it's ignoring your made-up themes.
I don't think you can say, yeah, we're moving past nostalgia, but also be like, hey, remember Star Wars from 1977? Most of the movie's like sheer brilliance.
That's reasonable.
Stems from.
But I don't think the themes are like kill your past in The Last Jedi. That's just something Kylo said. And this is one of the people that sticks very hard to the themes of the film, or at least the interpreted themes.
What do you
and
think
some people have straight up told me, look, I don't fucking care about the themes in that
I know,
film.
but that's what I'm saying. You're saying it's not the theme. I'm sure a lot of people walked away with that as the theme.
But
it's all about killing everything.
That's purely because like they put so much focus on like what Kylo Ren said, and there's so many themes made up for that fucking film. There are billions, and I've met people who and talked to them about Rise of Skywalker, and they said one of the defining factors of why they don't like the film is because it contradicts the themes from The Last Jedi.
Really?
And do you ask them what it is, what the themes are?
I think one specifically was trying to remember the fact that they give Rey like a family, so explaining her parentage when they believed the theme of The Last Jedi was anyone can be a Jedi and it doesn't matter who your ancestry is, and so because it goes against that, they're upset.
Where do people get that from? Like, what part? Does it mean if the hero says it, or
it's because Kylo says, your parents were nobody, and there's that little kid who has the Force at the end of the film. And
but he also said
people
kill
have
the
got
past.
that.
So if you're taking your themes from what Kylo says, then kill the past counts.
I guess, but that's more talking about what they interpreted the themes of, not me personally.
Fair enough, but he's definitely getting that. That's a major theme of the movie, and then juxtaposing that with all the nostalgia bait, and I find that to be a perfectly cogent argument. Like, you can't really do that, but you can do whatever you want. It's just gonna flop,
If you definitely interpret the themes as kill your past, and then you've got the nostalgia, I can see the contradiction. However, I don't see the theme being, kill your past, because I don't think that's what The Last Jedi was really about.
Well, let me put it this way, and this is the last thing I want to say on it, but I felt when I watched the movie, it was killing my past, like my nostalgia, like my Luke Skywalker, my themes, my Jedi, my Star Wars, everything that I liked about it shot. So I felt like Rian Johnson was giving me that theme from his filmmaking on a meta level. So if you can allow me to have a meta theme exist, that's what I felt like the meta theme of the movie was.
I just think I don't think Ryan Johnson was intending to kill or character assassinate Luke. I just think he had such a huge misunderstanding of how Star Wars works and how storytelling works that he ended up fucking up so much.
I guess that's the malice versus incompetence argument. We could talk about that forever anyway. Sorry, I don't mean to go off on that, Smud.
Here's another tangent.
Hey, we were just talking about Shaban before, who wanted to punish pissed off fans of Star Trek Picard. You're like, okay, this is
It's
not
disappointing.
good. Yeah. Anywho.
The choice to just say, fuck the past. You know, when the movie is doing unique things and really changing the Star Wars lore,
Really?
it's great. And
Really?
it's fantastic. And most of that brilliance
Doing
is
new
found
things
within
and changing
scenes
law, okay. Specifically
Wait.
changing law, not adding to it in any way, not
Well, I
expanding,
want to. What's his
specifically changing
qualifier?
it.
What's his qualifier here that he's about to say? He loves that they're changing the lore. Why? I haven't
let's
gotten the
keep going.
predicate of that.
Rey, Kylo Ren, or my favorite scenes, Rey and Kylo Ren. The directing
Oh my god.
That was his favorite scene.
That's changing
the
the
slow
lore?
motion Matrix backflip.
I've made fun of that scene twice.
That scene is so dumb.
So stupid. Why is he trying to run her over with a fucking TIE fighter?
Why is she running?
He really
is
wants
she
to hit it.
Like, he doesn't bother to like fucking nuke her with missiles or
And
just
if he had no
shoot her
guns or had no bullets or whatever, all he'd do was change the altitude of his z-axis by 2 degrees and would have rammed right into her. So like there's
just do spins. That's a good trick.
Like she didn't have to jump that high. She could jump to the side. She could dig a hole. She could have ran to a mountain. But no, she was running backwards.
She could have also laid down and it would have gone straight over.
They
Like,
could have
oh,
gone.
that's a neat trick. Oh, look, I'm going to lay down and now you can't get...
They could have gone even crazier with it. When she jumps to do this backflip thing, Kylo could pop out of the hatch, and then they could like clash in the air, and then the thing could blow up behind them. That would be really anime.
God.
But
You know
why
what I mean?
would you just
have
blow up
fun
your
with it.
fighter like that? For this, like, just for the sake of action, you just like Kylo would just blow up his fighter rather than just landing it like a reasonable person.
I would much rather play The Force Unleashed than watch these movies. So yes, I want a steel cage match. I want a big giant Jedi with 8 arms. I don't care at this point.
Fighting General Grievous. Oh,
Spider Jedi.
I am the superior Jedi. Urgh. Like, okay. Robot man. Remember when Kylo threw his lightsaber into the water? There's a GIF of someone make of General Grievous just running and diving into the water.
Yeah, it's so good. Even the sound effects are in there.
So new and new additions to the lore, or changes to the lore, is when Kylo Ren and Rey are in the same scene. I guess I don't know what that means.
So he's not talking about things like force healing. He's not talking about things like fucking space lightning that deactivates specific. Not talking about, I don't know, whatever the fuck this film also does that I can't be bothered to go over right now.
Yeah, just Kylo and Rey. That's the great changes to the lore. All right, whatever.
is incredible. The writing is fucking superb. And the performances of Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver are just magnificent. The chemistry between these two is so unique because 1 second I'll think to myself, holy shit, they're going to beat the fuck out of each other. And then a second later I'll be like, holy shit, they're about to kiss.
Holy shit!
That makes the film good, guys. That's what makes the film good.
What?
The movie's so adjective.
Oh my goodness, what a strange thing to say. We're never sure what they're going to do. That's usually not a good sign. That's usually a bad sign. That you're not sure what the hero wants.
If they're not adhering to any kind of logic or consistency, then yes, that is a terrible thing.
You see, in order for those two things to be true, they both have to like and hate each other for reasons. The only thing we know is that Rey hates him, and then
He's
she felt
also
lonely.
saying
And
the
Kylo wants
writing
to
is-
manipulate her. That's all we know. And he's confused. He doesn't even know what he wants, I don't think. He's so lost.
He's saying the writing is superb, but he's also saying the film is just fine. Okay, so is the writing amazing, or is the writing
Yeah, it's like this
He's
schizophrenia is a
very
really good mental health condition. It's like no, no, sir. That's not called good mental health. That's the opposite of mental health. We don't want to be mentally crazy when we're trying to talk to someone and we determine, oh, why are they stabbing themselves in the arm? It's because the voice inside keeps telling them that. It's like, oh, that's a good thing, really?
Maybe this should be a little bit more scripted.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
The sexual chemistry is wild, and it's
The
such a unique
sexual
thing to do
chemistry.
in Star Wars, to have a love story between the hero and the villain.
There
It
is no
makes no
love story.
fucking
What are you
sense.
talking about?
I
They
want to
should hate
play
each other.
right after he says the sexual chemistry. I want Patrick Williams to come out and say this is a space movie, whatever the movie is for kids or whatever.
Intended for
I
children.
It's so retarded I can't ever remember it, but I just want him to hold that sign up. It's for children. The sexual tension was really good, but it's for children.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
What was a sexual scene between Rey and Kylo? Can you think of one aside from maybe where she gets captured and she's in that gurney, all strapped up?
Throne room, obviously.
The throne
He's
room?
just like, I have you now. This is how I want you. And she's like, I can't even move. I practiced out of Shibari.
A PhD in sexual chemistry.
I had a Jedi Master once who was Japanese. Oh, okay.
That's chemistry versus Force Wi-Fi.
They should. I would have loved if they had gone full adult with Star Wars because my favorite Sith is Darth Talon. I need more of that. I want to go more underworld with it, but it's a movie about space wizards for children. Okay.
I can't
Yeah,
think
just
of
move
one.
that space for children. Just pull up Darth Talon.
I can't
Pull
think
up
of,
like Force Unleashed.
It's so awesome.
I can't think of one romantic scene. Can anyone?
Yeah, it's a good point. The only scene that I can think of, not in T-Ross, but in TLJ, is when they hold their little hands together.
That's
fingers.
not really romantic.
They
That's
touch
just-
fingers.
They're sort of.
I picked up on that.
They
was
love
like-
each other because they touch fingers. Obviously, Major League 2019, I believe.
No,
Yeah.
it's like 8-year-old romance. It's like, oh my god, I touched her hand. We held hands in the hallway. That's the level of romance.
Yeah, okay, I guess you could say that, but it's just really reaching. That's just ooh.
Top shelf.
It's reaching to the point of like, why are you trying to look for it?
Yeah.
Like,
Someone said
it's-
Rule 34 might have more romantic depictions of.
Oh, dear.
It's true.
Well, you have to go to porn to make your point. That's probably not a good point to make. Anyway,
And to connect them in a really thematic and metaphoric way. I found that to be so cool.
what is a thematic and metaphoric way between romance of the characters that have no romance?
I don't know what that means.
Also, can we point out the kiss as well was also not a kiss of love; it was a kiss of gratitude or something.
You know why I think that was though? Because
Something stupid.
the writer was a feminist, and she was like, okay, this obviously, I don't like what the now heroic Kylo the man did. So it's really Rey saying to him, thank you, and that's that.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's what happened.
I agree.
Because when you listen to her tweets, she is just pro female everything, and she contradicts herself. And a writer obviously has an agenda. If she says something like I was so happy to finally see a female Jedi on screen, when she completely forgot about the prequels, and it's just like what? And she's no, I meant.
And then there was like one who had like roles in particular, like prominent roles. Like yeah, it's like a fucking.
She obviously has her agenda, and that's what she looks for. So, and sadly enough, she has no concept of the
Just
prequels.
referencing back to the Rule 34 thing, is that, well, it wouldn't be out of the question for this guy's argument because he did bring up porn in his Captain Marvel video for saying why she's popular.
Oh God.
Apparently, when the movie was out, she was like one of the tops.
Yeah, I'm sure Brie Larson's a real starlet. Ugh.
The way Kylo is torn between the dark side and the light side found within Rey. It's clearly what interested them the most, and I just wish that we had more of it. There are a number of like religious allegories in this film, and I love them.
Really?
I love
Are
Rey sort of, speaking to the snake, and he.
Oh my God.
Speaking to the snake.
Are you serious? The Garden of Eden? Is this what he's talking about? What?
Wait,
God.
is it the Garden of Eden? I didn't understand what that was a reference to. Like,
Well, what is he talking about?
so
Talking to a snake. What?
He said Ray talked to a snake just after talking about religious allegory. However,
I don't think those were
there's
connected.
one. Yeah, I don't think they're connected because one is the snake tempting Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, and the other one is the snake opens up a fucking hole to let them out after being healed.
Does it though?
Yeah, the snake opens up the hole after being healed.
Really? Oh,
That's what lets them out.
I know there was a hole. I didn't know the snake made it though. Okay.
The snacky snake just kind of whipped its tail and the boulders. I guess mundane Matt was there picking up the boulders and just stacking them in front of the cave.
I thought it was you finish the dungeon in Skyrim and then magically you get a doorway to the outdoors that you couldn't see before, which is right next to the entrance or whatever. All right, fine. It's an allegory to this not talking snake. All right.
Feeling it. I also loved the temptation in the desert where Kylo Ren's TIE fighter comes in and Rey jumps
Oh, he
over.
was referencing it.
Yes, the
There you
temptation
go.
of the flying space machine in the Bible. I remember that one vividly.
I thought that the temptation was in TLJ.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
The biblical.
And Jesus came down from the mount, and there he laughed at his TIE fighter aloft and say, "Yay, this is my TIE fighter."
And then in the Bible,
Yeah.
a big dog monster was captured, and like Jesus and Eve and fucking Adam, they used the Force to play tug of war with the ship.
And Rey split the Red Sea with her force powers.
That would have been, that would have been Mary Sue, right? That would have been totally biblical.
That would have been cool, though.
Then
if she
you
had-
could say, there's the allegory. There's Moses. There's our hero, our savior, our Jesus/Moses figure / God.
It'd be cool if she could command and ride the snake or something like that. I don't know.
She heals the sick. She breaks bread into 48 loaves. She could do all these amazing things.
She's so boring. She's like eating just a piece of Wonder Bread with nothing on it.
Yeah.
Doesn't
The religious allegory. Are you religious, sir? Do you read the Bible in the past 2 years, 10 years, 20 years? No?
I have never even read the Bible, but I still know at least some surface level shit.
I'm not sure what he's talking about. The desert, the temptation of Jesus in the desert, and the devil's tempting him to eat bread or whatever. And
the devil's tempting him with a TIE fighter.
I don't know.
The devil's like, hey, Jesus, look, I've got this really sick TIE fighter. Like, I bet you want it, don't you?
Yeah, because we don't know what Rey's motivation is. Can't be tempted, you know? So maybe that's what he's trying to get to. Like, Jesus couldn't be tempted, but that was a principled stand. He had already explained everything as a person that got him to the conclusion of where he is. Like, Rey, we don't have any reason to believe that she believes in anything because we don't know anything about her from The Force Awakens onward. We just know she's, like, backstory elements, like on a bulletin board or something where it's like, she's a scavenger. She can do this. She does that. But she can't not do anything. She does everything. So we don't know what her limitations are. We don't know what her motivations are. So even if you put the allegory there, you have a Mary Sue character that doesn't have any human personality when the actual biblical character is more human than Rey is. Jesus is more relatable than Rey.
Well, I'm lost on the allegory, but let's just keep going. Maybe we'll have some more.
It's a beautiful scene, and it's very religious, very heady.
No, it
And
isn't.
I like that. I love
What?
when movies
He
do
likes that it's
religious
religion
bullshit
heavy.
It's heady.
have some sort of relevance to the story. Yeah, there's
It has zero. What is he talking about?
Oh my God.
It's very religious. It's very heady. It's an action scene. What is he? What?
Hey, Smud, have you seen The Holy Mountain?
No.
Oh man, I would love to watch that with you guys and then watch that with this guy because that would blow his mind because it's all abstract allegory. Each scene is like a completely different setup. And that to me is like a really religious film. I have no idea what he's talking about here. This is so bloody crazy.
another fantastic moment in the movie where Kylo is visited by Han Solo. And, Kylo Ren is, basically just saying, you're just a memory. and Han Solo says, "I'm your memory." I found that to be so beautiful and so profound and so genuine.
And so completely
Kylo
unbelievable.
forgiving himself with his own memory. That's so profound. He's forgiving himself for the murder of his own father.
He's having an hallucination. That's so profound. That's great. Yeah. Mental health issues. That's great. Okay.
I forgive you, myself.
It's so beautiful when you have the Force and you can project ideas that aren't really there into the physical world. He's not mentally broken. Yeah, he's fine. He's a healthy guy. Yeah. Just been
Why
killed.
Han Solo? Why not bring back Luke then as a Force ghost? Then you could justify it. They needed the exact same scene. It had to be the reverse of the scene in TFA.
It would have made some sense if Luke was there and he could now communicate to him because, like we saw with Yoda could just teleport anywhere. But I'm assuming Yoda just doesn't do that for a good reason. Like Luke's over there, so if Kylo's now more attuned to light or whatever, that Luke would pop up because he used to be his teacher. He's like, okay, yeah, Kylo, how's it going, buddy? See, I told you I'd see you again. Ha 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 ha. Or whatever.
See you around.
See you around, kid. Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
But it's so profound. It's so beautiful because I said so. All right.
Yeah, just adjective.
You know, it parallels their final conversation in The Force Awakens.
No, it doesn't.
In which, Han Solo literally tells Kylo Ren that Kylo is dead, but his son is alive. And I just wish the movie really fucking understood what that meant. So this is...
Okay, so it's profound and beautiful, but it's
So how
not?
What? He doesn't qualify this because he says that it's not beautiful. Well, it is beautiful, but he doesn't believe the film knows what it means. But what does that mean if Kylo Ren is? It's very confusing because he said Ben Solo's alive, but Kylo Ren is dead. And how does the film not continue with that? Because he then continues to be Ben Solo rather than Kylo Ren. Just what is this guy's arguments? They're all over the place.
It's beautiful, but it doesn't make sense. Like, what? How is that good? What are you talking about? Just say it looks good, but it makes no sense. That would have been fine. But no. It's profound and beautiful. I wish the movie knew what it was doing. Like, what? All right.
This is where my sort of interpretation comes into it, and this really starts to lose its ideology as a review. For the last two movies, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it's been heavily implied that Rey and Kylo Ren have some sort of romantic connection.
No, it's not.
I mean, whether it's the interrogation scene in The Force Awakens where...
That's not romantic, you
Yes,
weirdo.
the most romantic scene ever in Star Wars. It outranks the Attack of the Clones by 1 billion%.
He is raping her mind, and you're telling me this is romantic.
I don't think it's romantic.
No, Smudge, you're wrong because she ends up going into his.
They're clearly messing up what they want to go for, and I'm not sure if they knew in the beginning that they wanted to go for it. I think that they saw Reylos as a audience that they could cash in on for this movie inherently.
Maybe.
So they kept throwing them bones.
Well, no,
but
I think what it was that Rian Johnson, like, because obviously he very much cares about the meta, but he kind of cares about doing the opposite of what people seem to want and expect. So, like, those are large amount of the majority were like he saw the amount of Reylos, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to lead them on a little bit by having a shirtless scene with Kylo, and then I'm going to lead them on further by having Rey really want to talk to this guy, even though they should really fucking hate each other." And they've had they don't even know each other. They just kind of met a little bit. She got interrogated by him. She stole some Force abilities out of his head somehow. And then, like, he killed her father figure, supposedly.
To be fair, he's saying he's interpreting this, so it's not all.
But how can you interpret a interrogation scene as the beginning of some kind of romantic relationship?
The lack of romance in your life, or what you think romance is. I don't know.
I mean, I feel sorry for this guy's girlfriend if he has.
I would agree with your side where there's no romance in these movies at all. Like if you're actually talking about healthy relationships, there's none of that in this. But I can see where dysfunctional people see that and are looking for that.
Yes, that tells us a lot of those people who think there is romance and they see this as closeness or intimacy. That's bizarre.
Well, you mean like the people who have never been that close to a woman before?
No, I think it's like people that have a fascination with like serial killers in prison and then they get married to them, that kind of shit, where they're like obsessed with something.
Yeah,
Or
because
they
a lot of the
think they can
Raylos
change them.
are girls, so they have these feelings as well. So it has to be something along those lines. But what a weird headcanon to say and to reference this scene as an example.
But here's my logic about it. Kylo Ren, oh, he's like this cute. He's just misunderstood. Oh yeah, he killed his dad, but I hate my dad.
He's the bad boy. Oh, he's so hot. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a weird tension between them, or whether it is the metaphoric art house like
It's
sex
not a
scene
metaphor.
found within The Last Jedi when they
It's a
touch their
what?
hands. It's a beautiful.
A metaphorical sex scene. It's a metaphorical sex scene. They touched fingers.
It
This
was
is
so
Major
hot.
League.
I loved it when they touched their hands and the water was there. It's so sexy.
Quite literally, Major Lee's argument. They had they love each other because they touched fingers.
Finger sex.
It
that's
was
what he called
obviously
it.
sexual.
And that is pathetic. You should be embarrassed to have that in your video. That's really pathetic. Sorry.
This is the point of the story where Rey is so alone and that she doesn't care about anything else, that she wants someone to comfort her. She didn't
How
go to her
is
friends.
touching fingers sexual by any means?
This is a desperate, alone, scared girl. This is not sexual. Okay.
And it doesn't even make sense that she's alone because she should be around a bunch of people. She keeps seeking out people, but we don't know anything about her motivations, so none of the characters can really interact with her. She's so headstrong, and Mary Sue, like,
And
she doesn't have any
Chewie doesn't
conflict.
really have a voice. He's just sort of there.
She could talk to him,
Yeah.
and then just like have a monologue with herself, and Chewie could be like, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, I get a dialogue out of that. Yeah, you're right, Chewie, I'm being a bitch. Whatever.
Yeah, this is such a bad scene. I don't know why this is a good thing or even to deduce this is sexual. It's like, whoa, that's pushing it. Okay, let's keep going.
Moment. Now, I don't want to come across as a Raylo stan,
You
but
are.
that's fucking cool. Like it makes sense. It's something new that the franchise.
Raylo's cool.
It's cool, dude.
Not a Raylo, but Raylo's cool apparently.
I'm not a Knight of Ren, but Knights of Ren are cool. All right, thanks. Ay, ay, ay.
is doing. It's bringing literal balance, the light and dark.
No, it's not.
together to create
No.
one. It's
No.
this
Wrong.
beautiful idea that I think George Lucas.
Yeah, it's really not.
There is
That is not what balance is. It's never been the equalness of light side and dark side. The interpretation of balance has always been the killing of the Sith, the removal of the dark side within the. That is what the balance is.
and even that's not spelled out in the sequels, so we don't even know what it would be in this movie. If that was
And
the
you
case.
can't really have balance for anything longer than the beginning or the ending, because conflict is what drives the story, and then the binary is between the Jedi and the Sith. So you are always going to have unbalancing, and that's going to be based on whatever the characters and motivations are. The greed, the dark, every aspect of the dark side is going to lead the villain down a path that's going to unbalance the force, and then that requires a response, and you get a great story out of that conflict. So just do that. I don't know, what new stuff do you need to add to that other than your own interpretation of how like each of us would have a different type of villain in the same environment if we made a Star Wars movie, but we could all probably make a Star Wars movie to the same standard set if we followed the same canon rules, right?
It's possible. You'd have to look at what makes those movies click and what people want to see. But yeah, you could definitely throw in some romance. It's not hard. It just takes time to build it up, because you can't just have a antagonist, protagonist, main plot, and then just throw in antagonist, protagonist, romance plot. You have to know how to connect them, which is why the Marvel films are so successful. They have multiple genres combining together, And I wouldn't say they're the best examples of that, but to just pull it off is good enough. Like, that's a masterpiece to do action ensemble casts that are also adventures, that are also sometimes romances or whatever. So yeah, I'm impressed by them in theory, but to do it is another thing.
It's like when you have the romance story between the good and the evil. It's uniting these two characters together to create one like dialectic between them, and their relationship and their emotional interactions are going to be how that dialectic plays out, and the drama of that is what we enjoy seeing. But we don't have any kind of like the dialectic between Kylo and Rey is just basic. Like, if they just agreed to not fight each other, then the conflict would be over. If they could like figure out how to work out a deal. But we're supposed to believe that the motivations of these characters are so solid and based in principles, but they aren't based in anything. She's just mad at him for killing Han Solo, and he killed Han Solo because of a vague reason Snoke told him to, but it was really Palpatine. So if there was a romance story that was there, you would think it would blossom in a way that would be more organic, and it would have like earlier seeds that would be before the downfall of they should already be in a romantic relationship before Kylo turns to the dark side completely by killing Han Solo. And then you can have the melodrama in The Last Jedi, and it would actually make sense. But because nothing is established, it just doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy and we have to fight, but I love you. Horrible.
It doesn't quite work at the third part of a trilogy.
No.
Need some build up there.
Would have loved. I really think he was fond of the idea of putting the hero and the villain romantically together. I was reading through the
Can you maybe explain when George Lucas would have liked the bad guy and the good guy to be together in a story?
Yeah, the prequels.
Could you?
It's just that Anakin starts out as a good guy, and Padme is supposed to always be a good guy, and that's he kind of botched it a little bit.
But he doesn't.
But that's the intention.
But Anakin isn't the bad guy in the prequels. He's the good guy, and even after he becomes the bad guy, they kind of break up.
Well,
as in Padme dies.
But the whole motivation for his character is that he wanted to save Padme from this vision that he's having. And
yes, but that's not the hero loving the villain dynamic. That's the hero turning to the dark side and becoming evil.
Right, but at the end, what I'm saying is that the climax is playing with the notion that one of the good characters is now evil, and so you have the secondary protagonist now, the Darth Vader character, who wanted to do something out of love and was corrupted by it by trying to do using dark magic, black magic, classic wizard story, to save something that may not even have happened because it came.
But that is very different to having an established bad guy and an established good guy, a good lady, and then just kind of throwing them together. It's like, oh, I love you too, when they're all supposed to be against each other and there's nothing to support their relationship.
I don't think he has any evidence to support his claim, but I would venture that if somebody did a story about a Jedi and a Sith, like a Jedi guy and a Sith girl that was like the apple and Adam and Eve, then it would be a very popular story with George. Yeah, you'd have to write it right.
We've had a few stories of that in KOTOR 1 and 2, so it's can be done. We've seen it.
Yeah, Revan, right?
Revan, there's Jolie Bindo, there's what's her name? KOTOR 1, who was going to the dark side and she stayed a Jedi if you want her to be. There's a few where that's one of the beauties of KOTOR is that they play around with the bad students of the Jedi Temple. What happened to them? Why did they go astray? And
exactly.
I'm surprised they didn't do that more in episode 1, 2, and 3, where you'd think you'd have all these teachers that would teach wisdom and patience and compassion, to have a few bad apples and how they would have like imagine Kung Fu, the original series in I think the 60s or 70s, where young Kwai Chang Caine is growing up and he feels anger, and the masters have an answer for everything. They always have some wisdom. They always have a meditation. It's like, listen, this is normal. What you're feeling is this or that. And they have an allegory to like an animal or some part of nature. Like it's something that's very common to men and women to see people get frustrated and screw up. And we don't see enough of that.
I think a classic noir trope and a classic storytelling archetype is a woman that leads a man down a wrong path, like a siren, and that's what I would write
Lady
into
Macbeth,
a Jedi Sith.
Othello, I guess. Well, with Iago, I suppose.
And that's what in the prequels I will maintain even to chat, and I'm willing to die on the hill that the script needed a couple revisions, but 100% the reason why the Jedi are not supposed to marry in the story is that meta, is that a woman and the love will bring down
Right.
this powerful Force user, and so he has to stay stoic.
Too many emotions. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Great.
All right, let's keep going.
For Rey and Kylo Ren's themes. And they actually have very similar notes. I think the first 3 of Rey's are the last 3 of Kylo Ren's. Or, or flipped or whatever.
What are you talking about?
And those same 3 notes are actually from Across the Stars, the love theme for Anakin and Padme.
Oh, he's talking about music themes.
Attack of the Clones, which I'm doing a video about very soon. So the whole time, even the composer is like, hey, I think these two want to fuck. Despite the rush
No.
pace, the over-reliance on MacGuffins, all would have been forgiven if they gave Kylo Ren and Rey the ending that those characters really deserve.
Okay, so the story would have been perfect if they just had some romance.
You just want a happy ending with the romance story. Just don't kill Kylo, and he would have loved it.
All the MacGuffins are forgiven. All the fast-paced nonsense and garbage on the screen is forgiven. If this guy's a Reylo. That's the logical conclusion here. I wanted a romance story. I didn't get it. Wah, the movie sucks. No, the movie's fine. Except when it disappoints me. Like, okay.
So it's so funny that they want a redemption arc for Kylo when he killed one of our favorite characters. It's like, no, I don't want to see that now. He killed Han Solo. Han Solo is more important to me than any of these new characters. So they kind of screwed the pooch on that one.
I don't think Kylo knows what he wants. That's the problem. What do we do with the villain? He's this way. No, he's that way. No. He wants to eliminate everything he did. Oh, no. He wants Rey. No, he doesn't want Rey. Okay.
If they gave Ben the proper redemption and a fucking family, I would have been so satisfied.
He had a family and he killed them.
Oh, that's terrible. That's painful.
What?
Just give the bad guy a happy ending, guys. Come on.
What was his redemption arc? What did he do to redeem himself? Not kill Rey? Thanks. That's great.
He fought with the lightsaber against the bad guys.
The bigger bad guy whose power he wanted.
And then he got his ass kicked a bunch. That was great.
What a redemption arc. Wow. If you guys want to know redemption, go watch Babylon 5, the Lando Malari story between him and Jakar. That pretty much Babylon 5 became a story about Lando realizing his mistakes, and everything he was doing after that point was about redemption, even if you weren't aware of that or it wasn't clear in the story. That's how you take a bad guy in a redemption arc. And that's an ensemble cast, and that's obviously an overarching storyline. But that was the second biggest plot in that series, which I thought was much more interesting just because redemption is one of those beautiful plots where you can keep pulling from. Like, you can never say, I'm sorry enough. You can never do enough because you're so distraught, you're so sad that you could bring humanity out at any time you can. I think you can write it that way.
Yeah. That's the way that it feels to a real person who's done something wrong that they can't take back.
Exactly, yeah. You want to keep everything you want to do is to redeem yourself. You just can't do it. There's never enough. What you did was so bad, you can't believe it, and you're trying to right a wrong. It's never enough.
And they do it. They do it for a second there. I'm sitting in the cinema. I'm watching this happen, thinking to myself, holy shit.
What was the zoom up on his hands?
They fucking have done it.
They've done
when
it.
Kylo Ren lifts himself out from the hole in the ground that Palpatine pushed him through, and he walks over to Rey and he's stumbling. I was thinking to myself, oh my god, I love this movie. I really do. I don't give a shit about the pace. I don't care about...
Dude, do you disappointed?
He said it was a fine movie, and he said he was disappointed.
It's a fine
What-
movie.
what?
It's disappointing. I love it. Dude, are you as confused as the movie is? Like, what is going on here?
So,
It's.
Making Ray
What?
I was gonna say it's a review and it's a rant, so maybe he is confused.
Yeah.
a Palpatine, I don't give a shit. It's all forgiven. It's all forgiven. Because they did something that is truly unique. You know, he gets
Really? What's unique? Climbing out of a hole that's bottomless? What is, like, I don't know.
I think he's trying to infer to the hero villain relationship.
Really?
I think so. That's what he's trying to imply.
Okay, well,
That it's unique to have a hero and a villain that are in romantically involved.
but they're not. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying about romance. He's saying about redemption to Kylo. And
But he's talking about the scene where Kylo pulls himself out of the hole and then goes over and gets kissed by.
okay, but he brings her back to life or what have you, right? There's plenty of stories. I'm trying to remember an old one. I don't know if you guys remember Hero, the Jet Li movie from 2001 or 2 or something like that. Really early 2000s. And the whole story is about Jet Li is this guy who's going on a quest to kill the king of something. And right when he gets close to it, he's about to kill him. He has every opportunity. He realizes the king is no longer a bad guy. The king has figured out what it means to be a warrior, what it means to be a statesman, what it means to be a king. And he goes, oh, I've been doing it wrong. I'm going to change my ways. And Jet Li, they have that shot where it looks like he's stabbing the king, and he's right behind him. The king gets excited. And then Jet Li's like, I have finished my mission. I'm going home now. And
Yeah.
the sword drops, and the king's fine. And Jet Li walks away. That is
He just needed.
fine. Like, yeah.
He just wanted to prove his point.
Yeah. And the bad guy has the same philosophy or matches the same philosophy as the hero or whatever the good. There was multiple heroes because they were all trying to help. I honestly can't remember his name. I think he didn't have a name in the Jet Li character. To get to the king, they all have to sacrifice themselves to get Jet Li up there. So there's plenty of stories. I'm sure there are out there where the antagonist and the protagonist change, and they have a revelation at the climax of the movie. So that's kind of normal. That's why you have climaxes.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite versions of that is LA Comp, where each of the characters have to learn from the other characters and become kind of the opposite of their character. And they have both a positive arc and a negative arc. So Bud, the cop, he hates people that abuse women and wife beaters, and you assume that there must be some of that in his past. And by the end of the movie, there's a woman that's made him so frustrated and so angry because she's betrayed him that he like hits her with backhands her. And he realizes what he's done. He's become everything that he's hated. And that happens to all of the characters. And then they redeem themselves by doing something that is both delving into the negative thing that's happened to them that they've learned and then returning them back to their positive position and predisposition that they were at before. So like there's a sacrifice for one of the characters because he's trying to do the right thing. And when he tries to do the right thing, he gets punished for it. But because he made that sacrifice, he says one word, Rolo Tomasi, that later becomes a Chekhov's gun in the plot. And then that is his redemption, ends up saving everybody just because of one word. So like all of these arcs and reversals are helpful tools for basic storytelling. And I think that's why he's so confused. It's like he's amazed that he can't figure out the characters so that when something happens, he's like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. He's like, oh, they got me again. And then when something actually does happen, he's amazed.
It's good because I'm ignorant. That's fantastic.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
to Ray and he holds her and he's fucking crying and the music is beautiful. And then he brings her back. He brings her back to life. And they kiss. And I was so happy for a second. They decide to kill Kylo Ren in the end. They make him drop his head and he disappears.
Oh, that's why he's
like a
disappointed.
Force ghost. But he's not really a Force ghost. 'cause
That's
we
why
don't
he's
see him.
disappointed.
It's such a strange choice. And it's one that the movie or the franchise or the series really didn't warrant. It wasn't built up. You know,
The whole series didn't warrant the death of Kylo Ren. Like, really? Okay. Bad guy
Yeah,
dying at the
Miss-
end? All right.
Didn't like warrant death. I don't. Nope.
He wasn't enough of an anti-hero to be like a redeemable character. If he hadn't killed Han and if he hadn't tried to keep going with the First Order, if he had done anything to build up this idea that he was like a Zuko type character or something that had a good side and we all could clearly see it, then I can understand where he's coming from. Because I think that's what people wanted out of it. And I feel like the actual narrative is confused between Rian Johnson and JJ, but I think that they knew that they had to kill Kylo because otherwise it wouldn't have impact. I think it was never on the table.
It sounds as if he wanted a secondary plot to be romance and he didn't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, dude, it's a bad if that's your criteria, it's not a good movie, according to you. It's very strange. It's like they gave me a taste of what I wanted and they ripped it away, and that's why I loved it. It's like, what? No, it's
No,
like,
it's fine. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
it's like I wanted a steak dinner and I saw it on my plate and they took the steak away from me. It was so beautiful. The 2 seconds I got to look at it, it's like you ordered a steak dinner, didn't you get to eat? No.
He just, you know what it was? He was sitting waiting for his meal and he saw the steak go by and he got excited as he saw it going towards his table. And then it just kept going by him. And then as he looks back, he sees on his plate, it's just like a hamburger without a bun.
Ground chuck for you, sir.
That's all you deserve, heathen. You wouldn't even know the difference in taste.
Yeah,
You have
you heathen, you plebeian. Actually, I'm not
The
sure if
waiter's
you would.
all- the waiter's just berating him for his taste in Star Wars. How could you like this movie? It is terrible.
You deserve this. I have some little hamburger for you. Okay.
You don't deserve mustard. You deserve mustard gas, you bastard. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
if anything, what was built up was this idea that Ben Solo is alive. Kylo Ren is dead.
What?
No one's ever really gone.
Oh.
It's just such a devastating.
No one's ever really
ending
gone.
that just really didn't need to be there. With Kylo Ren, someone who's been manipulated his whole fucking life. He's been abused and used throughout his whole life.
Except in the comics
Also,
where Snoke is actually hugging Kylo Ren. And he's
I did a Shadowversity. I accidentally moved the video back when I tried to pause it.
oh no.
It's the UI.
Well, he was abused, I would
completely
argue. But Snoke
I'll
originally
check.
gave Kylo a big hug in the comic books. And that was creepy as hell if anyone sees the picture.
That's so
Yeah.
weird.
The thing is, apparently his father never loved him. Apparently his father and mother were like, how were they abusing him
Yeah.
and manipulating him?
Thanks, JJ. What was Han doing all this time? Oh, whatever Han does. Just traveling, leaving his family behind. You're like, what?
I would say he was really being manipulated by like Snoke and Palpatine, potentially.
Oh, here's a super chat from Ernie Velveeta. Thank you, sir. They don't have much of a point, so they have to overemphasize with gestures. We saw that recently with AOC. I don't know if you guys know who AOC is, but if you go on Twitter, and I'm sure you might see this, a very angry congresswoman gesticulating. Let's just say that.
There's an even worse video of another congresswoman that's not really known, and she's like screaming and just waving her arms, hysteria style.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make this point. Adam Driver, when TFA came out, was 32. So the idea that he's this like teenage dude that has like all these problems doesn't make any sense to me. He's 32. He's in his 30s. He should have some shit together, even if he's
like an
crazy.
ex-Marine.
Yeah. He has to be incompetent because otherwise feminists get upset. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Think of the children who are not men.
Hole in the ground that Palpatine pushed him through, and he walks
Yeah, we're a bit further from this.
because they did something that is truly unique. He gets so happy for a choice, and it's one that the movie or the franchise or the series really didn't warrant. It wasn't built up towards. If anything, what was built up was this idea that Ben Solo is alive. Kylo Ren is dead.
No one's ever really gone.
It's just such a devastating ending that just really didn't need to be there. With Kylo Ren, someone who has been manipulated.
I wouldn't really
his
call it
whole
a
fucking
devastating
life.
ending.
He's been abused and used.
I mean,
throughout
maybe
his
just
whole
I don't
life.
care about him.
Now that he's free and finally able to live as Ben Solo, he just fucking dies? That's such a boring way to do it. It's so...
Yeah, like the same way Leia dies because it's time for her to die. Same for Luke to die because it's time for him to... Like, say anything about these movies. The same crap.
What is that? Is that the script over there?
Oh, what you doing over there in the garbage? I don't know. Let's pull it out and use
So
it.
bad. It says here I have to die. Okay, bye.
That's so underused. I know it's... I really wish I had more time as a character.
I really wish I could just be in this movie, but I'm dead in real life. So we have to make up for it somehow, and it's going to be embarrassing.
limiting from a storytelling perspective to just say, yeah, he dies because, you know, he's happy, he's at one now.
No, he dies because he used the Force, just like Luke. It drained the life out of him, apparently, I think. Is that the general consensus? It's just people just use the
Who
Force?
fucking knows?
I have no idea either.
Dumb. Give me some fucking depth. Give me some genuine
dumb.
anxiety. Make me think, what the fuck is this guy thinking? You know what? He gets to live now.
What are you
and kill
thinking?
all those people. What? How does a character go on like that? That to me is interesting. At least if you kept him alive, if you did the
He's a
exact
bad
same
guy.
movie, you kept him alive. Rey takes him to Tatooine at the end, and we do the same scene, just with Kylo Ren. We do the same binary sunset, but with...
But this time they have finger sex.
Oh my goodness. That's so embarrassing to think of.
They go to Tatooine, they touch fingers.
They should do it on Han Solo's grave. They should just have like a tombstone there. They have the ghosts in the background. Kylo Ren's right there. Just zoom in slowly on the date that he died and who killed him.
And they're just kind of like there, just touching their own fingers together.
Oh God.
Kylo
Remember,
Ren
she's all the
with them.
Jedi.
Oh, that's not intrusive at all.
All the Jedi are inside her.
Oh God.
Rule 34.
That's different. That's the implication to the audience is this is a new path. Yes, the saga is over,
Is it?
but a new one has begun. That's what you're telling us.
Would it?
And by ending it
No,
with-
no.
So it's over, but it's new. What? Whoa.
Over, but
It's
So we do have to kill the past.
so. Do we want a new saga? What are you talking about, buddy? Like what? Oh.
Oh goodness. Killing me, Larry.
with Rey being alone again, which is literally how the first movie, The Force Awakens, begins. Such a depressing end.
She calls herself Rey Skywalker. She has a foundation or a namesake. She believes in more than just being alone now. She doesn't literally have to be with someone else. Of course, it would have helped that there was actually development to that, but you know.
You know what's funny? She had every other character as a romance option. She was like Shepard. She could have just picked any character. And she decided the worst character.
Herself.
She just saw herself in the mirror infinitely. Oh, I'm so great.
Well, who could compare to Rey? How would she relate to anyone else? Can Finn do even a smidgen of the things she can do? Can Poe? She's better pilot than Poe. I guess
You know, that would have been nice to see if they actually wrote that into the story.
Yeah.
Right? She's unrelatable because she's super powerful. I've seen that.
Yeah. But then
One Punch Man.
that would be just her being a Mary Sue again. So
And I've seen people write about it, and I fucking agree. All Rey needed was a family. That's all she wanted. She just wanted to be a
What?
part of a family. And I'm sure
what you mean, like her character herself, or you'd like to actually make the character better, as in like well written?
I like that you can't tell. You're like, which one is it?
All this Mary Sue needed was to have kids. You're like,
It's
what?
all she needed was to have a family, and it's like that's all she really wanted. Okay, so what you're the first part of that implies like is to make her a better character, and then the second part of it implies on what the character like, wanted. Well, that's really straight out saying. So, what I'm trying to understand how he's trying to say.
I think the plot originating from Rey is that she wanted to be part of something, and then her declaration of a name doesn't do that enough for him, even though she's figured out that she's not alone in the universe and she has all the Jedi within her or behind
But she
her.
is alone in the universe. All the Jedi are dead.
I don't think anybody wanted to hear Rey Skywalker. I don't think there was a single fan on any front, Raylos or TLJ fans or whatever, that wanted to hear those words, because the Last Jedi fans liked the idea of her not being anybody's daughter or whatever. Canon fans are going to be like, wait a minute, she's Palpatine's granddaughter, but she's calling herself a Skywalker. And then boiling down her character to being a family that she's not a part of, when she has she doesn't go visit her family's grave. She goes to visit another family's grave. She cares more about
fuck you, family.
randoms.
Go over to She Skywalker.
Her whole thing was, I'm staying on this planet for 20-something years because I'm waiting for my family. That was my first problem with The Last Jedi. I was like, her entire motivation is dead, because if that's her main goal in the beginning, and then in the end, she's still, the theme is supposed to be she's searching for meaning or family or something like that. She doesn't end up ever finding them. It's an incomplete mission, and it doesn't round out what her actual character is about. If it's about family, then she needs to accept her family. If it's about that family doesn't matter and you can be a part of any family that you want, someone needs to invite her into the family. So it's just,
well, to be difficult.
Why is that
all dead?
Yeah, it doesn't end with her running back to the Millennium Falcon with all her friends. Like, it just ends. So,
and it doesn't end with like, oh, this is my new family. It's my crew. Poe and Finn, the people that I've loved, like a Firefly thing where they don't have families, but this is their family. It is very confused.
Do you know what I want in like the episode 10? I want JJ Johnson to like just come back and just completely ruin. Like she's a completely different character. Like she's just been sat on Tatooine for like the last 20 years. Like she tried to start up a Jedi temple, but it all just kind of fell apart.
Wow.
And now she's got like a
how original.
just redo the sequel trilogy, but just do what the sequel trilogy did to the original. And then Palpatine comes back again, and then this time another person just
come back. Jar Jar has to be the ultimate villain. He was manipulating Palpatine the whole time.
Misa Darth Jar Jar now.
Misa being the voice in your head.
Oh God. Okay, let's just not think of that nightmare anymore.
What do you mean nightmare? That would be an absolute dream.
I think we have enough of the fanboying from one person in this video, and it's not us. So
You can argue, well, Finn and Poe were her family. Fine. But I'm sure she wanted a romantic partner. She wanted to be with someone. And that's what this character has been longing for since.
okay, everyone adores her. What are you talking about? Everyone wants to talk to her and be around her and help her. Finn can't stop chasing after her. Poe is always
At what point? Like, because Rey has kind of had a thing for, like, just kind of putting a father figure on anyone who kind of comes along. Like Han Solo, oh, you're now my father figure. Luke, oh, you're now my father figure. But never, like, a romantic figure.
Yeah, this is completely up to him to make these arguments.
If she was that if she was that desperate for, like, a romantic figure, she probably would have just gone with Finn, like, the first man.
Finn was supposed to be it, right?
I mean, I kind of I didn't see a relationship between them, but I would have bought a relationship between them a lot more than, you know, her and fucking Kylo.
Finn and Rey were very alone in the first movie, so they were happy to have each other. I think that was the friendship that was starting.
Wasn't it like the Han Solo parts of TFA where he's talking about women, and it's all of that seemed to be like, hey kid, you know, You got to do this if you want to win the girl or whatever. It seemed to be that he cared about her romantically or something like that. I mean, why wouldn't he? Like, right? Isn't that you have two characters that are of approximate age? They're both equivalent levels of attractiveness or whatever. They're both protagonists, male, female. It adds up. I don't know.
You don't understand. Ray's gay.
Ray is
Finn's
asexual.
gay. Finn is gay, and he wants that Poe.
Finn is an incel.
Well, no, I think
'Cause you just can't get it.
the feminist slant was so strong that they can't have Ray dependent on any other external source, whether it's emotional, physical, intellectual. Everything has to be the Mary Sue. There's nothing that could penetrate that.
I think that's very telling that feminists think that intimacy and having romance makes you weak.
Yes.
It's The Force Awakens. And it's so depressing that, like, they just ignore all of that in favor of another Vader. You know, he goes out like his grandfather. Like, it ties back to
He
what I said
always
about
was
nostalgia.
just
This
another
movie really
Vader.
doesn't know what it wants to say.
From the very start of this trilogy, he has just been another Vader. That is literally his entire fucking character. He's another Vader.
Yeah, he's a Kylo Ren. He's a Revan wannabe trying to be Darth Vader.
I wouldn't even go that far. I don't think the Revan vibe of being light and dark and trying to save people or stop them, or the opposite of that, trying to stop them instead of save them because he wants to be in charge of the Empire, never really came through very well. He just
it's horrible.
Yeah. So
Well, I don't think there's any kind of light side to Kylo.
No, but we'll never get the JJ second movie. But I'm sure that he was not planning on.
JJ was never going to have a second movie. Like he wasn't even supposed to do the last movie. It was supposed to go on to someone else, and then just kind of got JJ back.
You know what? If it was JJ all the way through, it probably would have been a bit more consistent. It still would have been a mess.
Yes,
right. But I think I
mean,
definitely
nothing
think they would
still would
have
have been planned. But at least if you had one person's vision, it would be a lot more consistent.
Right. Here's a super chat from Zorant00. Thank you, sir. You can't have Rey be romantically involved with a man because she don't need no man, followed by 5 exclamation marks. Also, Finn belonged to Poe, smiley face, good vibes sent out to all. Well, that was a nice friendship between the two, I guess. Yeah.
I feel like Oscar Isaac and John Boyega have natural friendship chemistry. Capitalize on that. Put them in scenes together. Have them going out on crazy missions and stuff. I know that they like each other in real life. And then I just don't understand why. I don't know. Love interests are what people like in movies. Everybody wants to either get the girl or the guy. That's what all of these romance stories are about. Why not just layer them in there?
That whole scene with Poe and whatever that other bounty hunter chick, that was just awkward. Just like, what are you doing? Why is she there?
Here's two love interests for...
She wasn't a bounty hunter. She was some kind of
spice runner or something. Yeah.
But then the other one, too. There's the girl that's also an Imperial stormtrooper and also escaped and is just like Finn, conveniently. And is super powerful and competent.
I remember that... was it Patrick Willems that complained that she was black or something? Or at least someone... because they didn't like the idea of putting 2 black characters together. They thought it was more progressive to put 2 characters of different races together.
I knew that. That's totally in their coding. That's like part of the progressive stack thinking. It's all baked into like that collectivist ideal where it's like we have to make it as progressive as possible, and it just becomes mush. It's like churning something into baby food. What would they be satisfied with? Nothing.
Yeah.
It wants to commemorate nostalgia, but then it also wants to do different stuff. Not really. Ultimately going back to nostalgia. It's so fucking weird. And I really disagree with it. I think this sequel trilogy has been plagued by appealing to the wrong audience. I think that these movies appealed to the original trilogy and all the fans that grew up with that. And I don't know if that was the best decision.
And yet they give them all the middle thing.
Yeah, no.
This was a new trilogy built for a new generation. It wasn't built for the originals. They tried, I think The Force Awakens tried as best as it could to cater to the originals, like people who love the originals. but ultimately it just kind of all fell down flat. They kind of gave up, and it's like, oh look, we all appeal to new people.
It says it in the trailer that he said he was referencing when he said the end of the Skywalker saga. It's like for every generation, there's a something or whatever.
A hero.
Yeah, and Rey's supposed to be this hero. So it's for this generation, obviously. But they also want to rope in the older generations. They can't do it because they can't find a way to make more competent or better characters than the previous. So they have to find a way to sideline them or kill them. It's really
Yeah, and having political slants just screws up the whole recipe entirely. So
yeah.
it's you either do either or. It's possible, but you can't do a combination of both with this weird Mary Sue nonsense. So it's a recipe for disaster, really.
Decision. Because you see, the people that love the original trilogy, all they want to see is the original trilogy.
No.
I'm generalizing here. I don't think
No.
everyone that loves the original trilogy.
What is this argument? The only people who like the people who like the original trilogy only want to watch the original. Yeah, none of them went to go see the sequels. None of them.
Or Clone Wars, or the comic books, or
Yeah.
the books, or the
It's
cartoons,
impossible for someone who liked the original trilogy to like the Clone Wars or the
or
prequels
the
or
video
the sequels
games, or whatever,
or anyone. Or Force Unleashed or Jedi Academy
or KOTOR.
or anything.
Yeah.
He just wants the same thing, but a large percentage of people that love the original trilogy just want to see Luke, Han, and Leia do the same bullshit.
No.
But people criticized The Force Awakens because it was just a lazy and shallow rehash of A New Hope. People criticized it because it was too much the same.
That was never going to happen. Like, even in George Lucas's original plans for The Force Awakens, that wasn't going to happen. If anything,
We're not looking for the same movie. We're looking for a good movie that makes sense and fits in with the world.
Yeah, it's basically just continuity. We just want the same universe that has the same rules that were set out, which were totally fine. They were believable to a degree. There were some things in the Force I was like, okay, that's kind of awkward, to have Ben in Skywalker's head when he's trying to blow up the Death Star. It's like, oh, that's kind of
He's
cool.
just dismissing like so many people though. It's like, oh, the people who, if you don't like this trilogy, oh, they were just looking for they were just looking for the original trilogy again, and the list was never going to be that. So on two counts, as I just said, people complained when The Force Awakens was too much the same. On the second count, The Force Awakens was a new count of the New Hope, so he's wrong on both accounts. They tried to make the exact same trilogy.
he was going to be more fucked. Because I'm pretty sure in the art of The Force Awakens, which I have right here, he kills R2-D2. R2-D2 is fucking dead in that movie. Luke Skywalker is portrayed as the Marlon Brando's character in Apocalypse Now. He's become like an insane person.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Oh my god. Marlon Brando's character is the master of the entire area around him. He's the king. It's the exact opposite. If they found Marlon Brando in a ditch at the end of Apocalypse Now and he was some homeless guy, that would be the equivalent to The Last Jedi. The point of Kurtz is that he's such a genius that he's gone over the edge. He's realized that the only way to win his war is to completely eradicate people and then indoctrinate his own people to be in a cult and do all this crazy stuff. And the jungle basically takes him to the point where he's dying of malaria, I think, at the end of the story.
Also, I just want to point out that it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to kill R2-D2. I don't think it should have been done, but I'm pretty sure someone, if you had the right writer, would be able to handle the death of R2-D2.
Well, same with the death of Luke, same with the death of Leia, same with every character death. It's like, just get a good writer who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, but the thing is that George doesn't like to kill these characters because he likes the fairy tale aspect of it. So just don't kill him. Just don't.
But this guy just claimed that in George Lucas's idea for the Force Awakens script in early, he wanted to kill R2-D2. At least that's what he's claiming, anyway.
Well, the script from George for episode or the sequels were just off the chart weird, like out in left field weird. So would I have liked to have seen them? Probably, yeah. I just like to see how actually creative he can be, because I don't think the first few movies in the prequels were particularly creative. They were just sort of, oh, okay, what would a Jedi temple be like? What would this happen? While telling the story of the Republic and how one guy became Darth Vader. Not the most successful plot, not the most successful storytelling methods. I think there were too many things going on, too busy. But when he brings it down to like bringing up the midichlorians again and talking about what's behind that, all the microscopic elements of the Force, which is, again, out in left field, I would like to know that. How far can you take that? What's his philosophy behind that? I would like to see what that would have become.
So there's a really sad aspect of the series not reaching its conclusion, which is that the original script of Star Wars was adapted from a much larger draft of a larger story, and he reworked the elements, and then he took that draft when he was writing the prequels after the original trilogy. Sorry, I'm missing a step. What he did was he decided to start his story ahead of where he originally wanted it to be. He wanted it to start around where the prequels would be, and then work his way forward. The benefit of
I don't
that
think
is,
that was the case, because from what I've seen, it seems that George just wanted to make his standalone story, and then it became successful, because originally it wasn't called, Force Awakens, A New Hope, Episode 4, Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. It was called just Star Wars, and then when Episode 5 came out, it was just called Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. And I think it wasn't until after Star Wars became successful that he had the idea to have the prequel trilogy before that.
no, well, just
Otherwise,
hear
it
me
would
out,
have straight up
because
been called Episode 4 at the beginning.
the 1972 like original outlines of Star Wars, or what I'm saying is that he wrote out this whole meta overarching story, but he didn't flesh it out. And when he started to develop it, he realized that he had to cut it into a movie. And so he picked this section of the story, and it started a few chapters into the whole saga. And the saga is called the Journal of the Wills, because at the end of the Force, there's all these different like Force creatures or whatever that are manipulating things, and all. There's a lot of weirdness, cosmic level things that are going on. And we never got to that point in the story, because that would be what he would base his version of the sequels on. Because the prequels have a lot of stuff that, like, for example, there's a character called Mace Windy in one of the original 1972 drafts, and they practice Jedi Bendu, which is like a reference to Dune. And there's a character called Anakin Starkiller. There's supposed to be like a Jedi that has sons. There's all sorts of elements that were cut and that are nowhere in the original trilogy, and then were sort of threaded into the prequel trilogy, and then leftover elements that would take place later in this original draft of the story that George would go back to reference if he were making the sequels would involve these larger cosmic consequences. So that's what I would project as the potential. That's my explanation.
I have not read the original scripts, but I know it had to do with the wills, and it had to do with these powers beyond understanding. And I'm not sure where he was going with it, but there was certainly an element of Luke being this old, weathered man who they had drawings and everything of all these scenes, storyboards, what have you. So it was planned out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you look up on Wikipedia, you can see the drafts of like what the story was originally. The movie was called The Star Wars, and then it became Star Wars. And before that, it had a way longer title. And they have all of there's a different page for each of the drafts that are a step in the process that led to the original script.
Set in isolation. Fucking what Rian Johnson did was like tame compared to that. These movies were almost sort of destined to fail if you appealed to those people, because they were never going to be happy. They don't like the prequels, they don't like the Clone Wars, they don't like this, they don't like that.
But I've met OT fans that love the Clone Wars and they hate the prequels. In fact, I'll reference one of them, even though it's not the best. Hello Greedo, not the best example of a Star Wars fan, obviously, but he absolutely hates the prequels and he absolutely loves the original trilogy, and he loves the Clone Wars despite hating the prequels. And there's a lot of fans I've talked to, Star Wars fans, who they have their own different, like, so that they like different parts of it, and often it's not quite in any particular order. So they'll like the prequels, or they'll hate Clone Wars, and they'll love the originals, and then they'll hate the sequels, or they'll love the sequels, or they'll hate the originals, but then love the prequels, and then love Clone Wars. And there's lots of different kind of little switches people flick off. They like them on and off, and there's so many different combinations of these opinions. It's now not just one straight. There's people who love the original trilogy, and that's it. That's the only thing they love, because it's not how fandoms work whatsoever. It's not how people work.
I'm just funny that I'm laughing at that he said that the stuff that Johnson did was tame compared to what George had planned. I was like, really? Do you want to subvert every understanding of the Force and space travel and space combat? Like, just how far do you want to go?
I think the biggest problem with where George's direction would go would be he would explain and demystify too much. But
Possibly.
other than that, he's way more creative than them.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't like shit that is different. This movie just feels like a course correction. And it's so weird to me that instead of correcting it to be, let's appeal to the fans that love The Last Jedi, let's make it more unique like that, they decided to just appeal to the people that hated The Force Awakens for the same reasons they hated The Last Jedi.
Wow.
But this is a gross oversimplification of fandom.
There are many reasons why we dislike The Last Jedi, and there are many reasons why we dislike The Force Awakens. They're not very congruent.
This guy seems to put like people into two camps. They either love the original trilogy and hate everything else, or they, love the sequel trilogy. Or like they're the fans or the quotation mark true fans who love everything. And that's just nowhere near what it is.
That it was different, and Luke wasn't in it enough, and he wasn't a badass, and he wasn't fucking killing everyone with his lightsaber. It's appealing to the wrong audience. It's appealing to an audience that ultimately are never going to be happy with it anyway. And J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, fucking Bob Iger, whoever it is, they knew this since 2015.
What is this argument?
It's so stupid because it's like, I feel like he's talking to me, the person that would never be happy with. And he's assuming that the Rise of Skywalker appeals to me, and it couldn't be further from the truth. You're right. He's right. You should not try to appeal to me, but he's not realizing that the Last Jedi audience, that part of the fandom, they are accurately analyzing that group of fans and saying this is not enough to make the money back that we want to make. So they have to appeal to broader audiences. And him saying the wrong audience is hilarious to me, because if you're a producer, you're like, how many people can we appeal to? Because we want all the money. It's simple.
The thing is, the fandom didn't properly break until like after the Last Jedi. So then a majority of fans were on the side of Force Awakens. And that wasn't just OT fans, that was a lot of fans. The fans who love prequels, love the original trilogy, love Clone Wars, yada yada yada. And then after The Last Jedi, that's when everything split apart. And again, it just it doesn't match together with how this guy is trying to explain it. He's acting like, the people who love the OT just hated The Force Awakens out from the start. It wasn't that. If you look at the reactions originally, everyone loved The Force Awakens. Well, everyone apart from me, apparently.
You just made me realize that there's that stupid saying that no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Oh, I will fucking...
Right. It's stupid. And what I really think it is that no one is harder to guess at face value than a Star Wars fan, because you have no idea which part of Star Wars they're talking about. And something that I was thinking about earlier when you were talking was that before they nuked the Legends canon and EU and all that stuff, there was enough room in the Star Wars fan base and in the universe for all of the things to exist. We could have Clone Wars. I'm not a fan of it. I don't hate it. Whatever. I just don't really. It's not my thing. I like the clones and stuff. I love Clone Commando. So it's like, so you get multiple choice options. So somebody trying to come out here and generalize and say Star Wars fans like this, that is stupid. The only thing that I could generalize about Star Wars fans is each Star Wars fan knows what they want. And that's what I'm seeing from him, is that he wants his perfect movie that would suit himself. But how do you actually make a Star Wars movie that's going to please all of these fans that are spread out amongst the different kingdoms of Star Wars, the KOTOR fans and the Old Republic people and all the different communities, because they all like the same general things. That should be what their target is. He's trying to close it off to just The Last Jedi, which is a fool's errand. So he's financially going to lead us into ruin if he's in charge of this project.
Well, you could argue the same thing happened to the prequels, or rather the sequels. So $1 billion is nothing to shake your head about, but
Also, maybe you look at the reason why people aren't happy with these films, and maybe come to the conclusion that it's because they are bad. Like, I like the prequels for nostalgia purposes, and I like them because there are elements in it which could have made for an absolutely brilliant trilogy. It could have been far superior to the original trilogy. However, it falls flat on its face. And yeah, I can see why people hate the prequels, because there are so many problems with them. The amount of problems there are with the prequels are just so long that it would need a whole 10 videos to talk about.
But you don't hate them, right? They don't.
I don't
ruin
hate people
Star
who don't
Wars.
like the prequels. I don't hate the prequels, and I don't dislike people who don't like the prequels. I understand why, because I have the same problems with the prequels.
Exactly.
But just look at the reason why people don't like the prequels or like the sequels. Don't just say, "Oh, it's because they'll never be happy." Like if I said, "Oh, you just don't like the prequels because you're never going to be happy. You don't like new things." That would be a terrible argument to make.
I feel like the prequels, though, it's a very simple fix, and one of the directions that they headed in was a choice that we have no creative control over. And so, like in my video, I go over two things. One is that it needs a script redraft, maybe with another person in the room that George
It
can bounce his
needs
ideas off of.
several billion redrafts.
I don't think it needs that
needed
many.
a lot more. I think it
think-
needed a lot more redrafts.
I think it needs 4 at the most, because it only need. George needs to have somebody table read his dialogue and hear it and go, "Oh shit, that's not very good. What am I talking about? Sand? How can I write that better?" Because there are points in the OT that he pulled out of it. I don't know if you've heard. Mark Hamill loves to recite that dialogue that's like impossible to say that they cut out, but they tested him with. Like it's this really technical dialogue, like about how they've got defense systems and we won't be able to get Ophicia too, and if we don't light jump and all this crazy shit. So if you just run it through that program a couple times, that's one side that'll fix it. And then the other side, which is the CGI, is something that we don't have creative control over, because the point of the prequels tech-wise is that it set the standard for digital filmmaking. Now
Yeah, it was
every
trying to
film is
push
made
the
by
envelope.
prequels. They did, and then now ILM is a huge company. Skywalker Sound is a huge company. His
Well,
entire
a Skywalker Sound and Industrial Lights and Magic were always one of the biggest, like after the originals. 'Cause
right,
they
but
used to
well, you do visual
from
effects,
CGI.
right?
Yeah, I do visual effects. Well,
But
I'm
most of
trying
them,
to.
most of them are digital, though, right?
Yes.
So like before the end of the 90s, visual effects were all practical. And a lot of the studios that were visual effects studios, like Sony Pictures Imageworks and a lot of Creature Studios, shut down or lost a lot of business because of digital. And that was because of the rise of all this technology. So Industrial Lights and Magic, which used to be a lot of practical stuff and have a lot of miniature units and all that stuff spread out, started to focus more on digital because there was cost effectiveness. You could control the environment. All of the elements that end up being creatively sterile looking and kind of blocky and almost look like an episode of Reboot or something from the 90s.
Even then, a lot of the prequels had. Like, if you look at the amounts of physical and practical sets they have, even just miniatures. So, like things like the Geonosian Arena is just a huge. Things like the gunship, all the ships and everything in Phantom Menace, they're all miniatures as well, which is why they look so great. Very little of it's CGI. I think it's more the placement of CGI when it comes to the Phantom Menace. It's
Well,
like
let
CGI
me-
characters like Jar Jar Binks or the droids.
Let me just venture that at any point, if they wanted to, and if they had the authority to, they could make a remastered version of the prequels with updated special effects, and it would be a much better experience on just that front. because all of the blue screen stuff, as long as you have the masters, and because a lot of these were shot on digital, not the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace was shot on film, and then Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were shot on a Sony F900 camera, which was the first digital cinema quality camera. Unfortunately, it only shot at 1080p, which now has to be upscaled to 4K and above. But now that they have the masters of all the blue screen and stuff in their archive, they could go back and just redo everything. They could do anything they want to do with the masters, and George planned that. So we can go, yeah, CGI looks terrible, but he was smart enough to know that he's making a modular movie that can be adjusted later, which is something that he was hinting at with the 1997 re-release. That was a test. So George has two minds. He's got this tech mind where he's the boss of this burgeoning empire because he wanted to open up, his whole story is that he wanted to break away from Hollywood and open up a new Hollywood in Marin County, and his neighbors didn't want it. So he got vetoed on that, which was frustrating to him. But then the other part of that was building up the next generation of filmmaking. And now all of the movies that were big hits, like Avatar at the time, which made $1 billion, they all use that. It's not just green screen replacement. Set extensions and virtual backdrops and virtual backlots are now standard in all over the place. TV shows, commercials, you can see it everywhere. So the prequels really based that. Sorry, that was a long tangent, but I find the technical aspect to be important on a meta level for people to understand, because it's obvious that it would have been better if he had like a giant army of clone extras like Lord of the Rings. But he was so focused on digital.
It did certainly improve over like the CGI in the Phantom Menace. It's a lot more noticeable where they've used it. However, when it gets to Revenge of the Sith, a lot of the CGI effects are much better. In fact, it's also strange to me how when they re-released Phantom Menace with a lot more visual effects, there's seemed to be, they didn't replace some of the like lesser effects such as Jar Jar, but they seem to do other effects in the background that were replaced, but they didn't replace. You can like things like Yoda. They replaced the Yoda puppet with a CGI puppet with the re-release.
I just have to clarify for the chat. It's not that the whole CGI looks bad. It's just that there is a.
I would just say it's poorly used in Phantom Menace.
Well, it's experimental even because they had you can go on forever about this, but the point I'm trying to make here is that there are specific technologies that exist now, and there are new visual techniques that exist now that didn't exist then, and it's what makes Toy Story start to look a little dated. But because the aesthetics are so well put together and because the designs are so good, it still holds up in a lot. What I'm referencing when it comes to CGI is some of the matte replacements that are being used. Look at my best example is look at Attack of the Clones when it's Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're just walking and talking. And what I want you to look at is I want you to look at the way that the lighting that is being used in the actual scene that's being shot on camera and the lighting that's being projected digitally are not the same color grading. They don't have the same effect on what's in front of them because a lot of technology didn't exist then. Subsurface scattering, specular maps, Fong, all sorts of texture stuff, normal mapping that exists now to the point where there are companies that are using Unreal Engine for live action effects, and you can render that in real time on a monitor. That's where we are now. But then they had no idea with what they were capable of. That's why if you go back to Jurassic Park it'll hold up because it has considerations that are coming from the practical world and the digital world, and the digital world is desperately struggling to match the practical. And because most of it was focused on practical, it all blends together really well. There are few digital elements on screen whenever you're watching Jurassic Park, but when you watch the prequels, there's a frequent usage of it, just like what Shiney was saying.
Well, that was a really long technical aside, guys. Thanks for that.
Sorry about that.
Let's keep.
I hope it was informative.
So why would you course correct it now?
What was your reaction to the end of the movie? But don't use words, okay? Ready?
How does it end?
3, 2, 1.
That's a vote of confidence. And look at JJ
Very
looking at
quickly,
it.
this is sort of
nervous.
a different angle, different to the rest of the video, basically because I forgot to record this bit. The character of Rose Tico in this film is done horribly.
Wait, what?
She's basically sidelined. in favor of a new character that I don't even remember what that character is called. It's pretty embarrassing. Like, I'm pretty sure they write Rose Tico out in a more embarrassing way than how they wrote Poochie out from The Simpsons.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Wow, Poochie came from another planet? I guess.
I think in this one they say that they need... There's a scene where Finn basically is like to her, hey, do you want to come on this adventure on the Falcon? And she's like, oh, nah, soz, bro. I got to do some paperwork for Leia. And it's like, you know, like 5 seconds before, Leia said, this is like the most important fight ever. Like, if we don't do this fight...
I think it was what the specific line was that you're going to go look at all the Star Destroyers and stuff to try and find weaknesses. Still makes no fucking sense, but even then, it would be pretty important if it did make sense.
But he's finally being disappointed, right? He's finally actually giving us faults that weren't headcanon.
No, but apparently the writing in this movie is fucking amazing, despite having these problems.
It's a fine movie. Everything's great.
It's a fine, amazing, disappointing movie.
Everything we've done is for nothing. And it's like, wouldn't you want someone who helped significantly on Crate working on this mission? Like,
why?
And
she didn't
what
do anything
paperwork do you
significant
do?
on Crate.
We don't know
In fact, she endangered the lives of everyone there.
But even if
by
she did,
crashing into Finn.
Why would you argue for that? What? Everyone that survived was from Crate, so someone's going to be doing the job, right?
What, the guy like functioned the cannon? What him? Why didn't they bring that? He was on Crate. Hey, that lady over there with a gun. Hey, look, you're on Crate.
Yeah, the lady
You're
that sent the distress signal that we couldn't get like help from. It's like, oh, she was there. Like, what do you want, guy? Why?
Oh, what? You wouldn't bring someone who is significant at Crate? Yeah.
Everyone who survived Crate is there now. Okay.
God,
It was a
was
great
so
take
dumb. Let's go to this static location. Let's all go to the one place together.
Yes.
Apparently, I don't understand why this barrier is apparently you can't just blast through it. It's the most impenetrable barrier ever created. You can't nuke it from space, and AT-AT can't shoot at it. Why didn't all rebel bases have this big metal wall?
Kylo Ren just goes, all right, we can't shoot the wall. Shoot underneath it, and then we'll go from underneath.
Yeah, shoot under the door.
Shoot under the door. Or shoot above the
Shoot
door.
the salt stone.
But even then, it's like, this is my lesson from The Last Jedi. Next time I'm getting chased by the cops, I'm going to call ahead to my gang and go, hey, we're coming to the hideout. The cops are coming. Okay, we'll see you there. And then we're all going to be there for the cops to arrest us.
It just... Why was their whole plan to just go to Crate in the first place? Why were they going to Crate in the first place? They didn't know they were being followed.
I don't understand why splitting up the forces wasn't the best idea. Wouldn't it be cool to like, all right, we're going to light speed, and then you're going to shoot your escape pod out, and then everybody gets in a different pod and ends up on a random planet?
Yeah, why not give all that fuel to all the light speed capable ships and just go in random directions? Just you go this way, 50 of us would go that way, etc., etc. While we still have ships. Because apparently they still had fuel for Canto Bite scene to happen, so... Anyway, that's back to TLJ. Let's finish off with this guy's rant of not liking The Rise of Skywalker. Even though it's fine and totally good.
About the politics in the sequel universe. So what paperwork are you doing? Do you need paperwork to go to war?
Paperwork?
Like, I'm so confused.
Yes, because there was absolutely zero world building in this entire sequel trilogy.
I like how he has one microphone, so he has to hold it properly, and he can only speak with one hand, so he's filtering his emotions through his mouth.
Wow. He's just like Kylo in TFA, where he's wounded and can only use part of his power.
And the scarring on Crate is the scar left on Kylo Ren's soul, or Kendo Ren's soul.
It's the theme of Red. Red is the blood that he spilled and the blood that he has to redeem.
By this, and it's such a stupid course correction to appeal to dumb, big dumb
Film.
dumb
It's a stupid,
fanboys.
stupid film.
Dumb, big dumb.
Fanboys. Who fanboys are talking to about this thing that you don't like, sir? I want to rewind this to see what the hell he's talking about.
By this, and it's such a stupid
Film.
course correction to appeal to dumb, big dumb fanboys that just like
Big dumb fanboy.
Dumb, big
also
dumb.
got Finn.
Those fucking binoculars are so stupid.
Fanboy. Dumb fanboys. What is he fucking on about?
Because
Well, you see, sir, I hate these big dumb fanboys.
and the other big dumb fanboys who don't like Rose to come on the mission.
I'm a big dumb fanboy.
How
Of
dare
course.
you not take the Asian chick with you and have this black woman with you instead? How dare you?
Wouldn't that be more progressive to have a black
Snap.
woman rather than an Asian?
No, it's more progressive, okay?
They have to be black and Asian and disabled and maybe blind.
Oh, God. It's true.
and a cyborg. That'd be the best.
It's true, all of it.
Had no character in this movie. Like, it's obvious that he's force sensitive, which is dope and really cool. Wish they did more with that. But there's
Dope,
a
he's
bit
force
where he meets
sensitive.
a new character who's sort of like the new Rose Tico. She replaces Rose Tico, and she was a former stormtrooper. And so the implication to me was that, oh shit, this is gonna be really important to the movie. Like, they're gonna basically try rally the stormtroopers to fight with them.
Well, that was just a version of expectations, wasn't it? Which means it's good if it subverts your expectations.
Just
I
like,
was surprised.
just like that other chick that had nothing to do with the story except for giving the magical MacGuffin key to Poe.
Sophists, all of them.
Fantastic.
Because they're both stormtroopers. The character tells Finn a story about how her battalion put all their weapons down and just like didn't listen to the Emperor. And in the
Another question: if they all just kind of put their weapons down and they stayed on the planet and they're just kind of sitting around, why didn't the First Order just like send people to execute the stormtroopers who disobeyed orders to make an example? In fact, why didn't these stormtroopers go run into hiding? I mean, I guess they were in hiding, but they weren't hiding very well if they're on the same planet as where their Star Destroyer went down.
We're stuck
Like,
here.
well done.
Guess we'll stay. All right.
I wonder if they crashed their own Star Destroyer, because it's never explained why the Star Destroyers crashed. Or
Bad
how
guy
they
dies.
survived crashing from fucking orbit.
Spaceships die too.
No one's ever really crashed.
Until you kill Palpatine, then they all die. Okay.
end, like, that doesn't happen. They just fucking destroy all the stormtroopers. They shoot them all, and they don't ask morally, like, hey, does some of these stormtroopers not want to fight either, like us? They just fucking, belt them. So
Hell yeah.
that's pretty fucking dumb. I'm not gonna lie, pretty dumb.
I should have just let them kill him off in that first one. Really, I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
I don't know. I'm torn on this movie. I feel like Kylo Ren. I'm torn between the light and dark side. I want to know the truth. And I think the simple truth is that I'm never really going to know. I'm just going to always watch this movie.
Oh.
Try understand it and try get it.
Oh my God.
Was I wrong? Or was the movie wrong? Or is...
But you just said it was an amazing movie, and then you said it was a fine movie, and then you said it was a disappointing movie.
He's going to keep watching it because I got to keep consuming Star Wars. It's
Dude,
so good. It's so
look,
bad. Oh.
Spend more time on a script. Spend more time thinking about what you think of the film and analyze it a little bit more. Try to, reference things and make an argument and try to come to a conclusion of what is the quality of the film, because you are flip-flopping everywhere.
He's like Fry at the Slurm Trough. He just can't break away from it. He's like, I just need more Star Wars. Just give me Star Wars. I don't get it. I don't even know if I like it. Just give it more. I need the stuff.
Inject it right into my veins.
Is it a bit of both? I'm not decided on this movie. I really don't know. if
Yes,
it's
you
good or
are.
bad. I just disagree with a lot of creative choices. I want nothing more than to come back to it in a year and fucking adore it. I really do hope that I come back to this movie this day in 1 year and I love it. But until then, I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm going to be thinking about what could have been.
Good luck. But why would you force yourself to love a film?
There's one thing I don't
It's
want to
like
do.
I must watch this film to make myself love it.
Is watch or read a bad story and go, I have to read that again because I didn't quite get it. It's like, no. It was such a bad story. I'm never, ever going to read it again. It's crap. It's not clear. It's misguided. It has bad setups, etc., etc. He obviously can't detect that because he likes parts of it. Fine. But he's jumping. I gotta keep watching it to understand it more. It's like, no, there's nothing to understand. There's no depth there. There's nothing. People died, and then Rey got a name. That's it.
I don't understand how he can have Watchmen sitting right behind him and think that this is a good movie.
Yeah.
Pissing me off.
Everyone's reading. Everyone must be reading. It's good. Oh, I liked it too. I just can't explain why.
Oh. Yeah, that was Patrick's in my response video to Patrick. He was like, I know every shot of this movie by heart, but I never really thought about them. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? How can you know something by heart and not talk about it or think about it?
Not think. Because Patrick doesn't think. Does Patrick really seem like a person who...
Patrick feels, okay? He's a sensitive man.
I remember the video where he acted like he was breaking up, like, oh, me and Star Wars are going to take a break for a while. Like acting like it's some like problem he's having with his girlfriend.
Star Wars cheated on me with J.J. Abrams, and I love her, but
says, he goes all these things like, oh, I'll miss like the title crawl. I'll miss Chewie. I'll miss the Jedi character. I'll miss the lightsabers. I'll miss the sound effects. I'll miss this. I'll miss that. And what's even more is that
he wants to create a narrative around his life.
I don't think Patrick has ever like been in a really serious relationship and actually actually had to seriously struggle with like splitting someone out of your life after you've been together for such a long time, because like what he's experiencing with Star Wars is nowhere near the real thing. I'm sure both of you had experience with, you being with someone for a long time and it doesn't end up working.
Yeah, that's called life. Yeah, you get through these things, and with fandoms, it's very similar.
No, but the kind of sentiment he was going for and the way he was presenting it was nowhere near like what it would actually be like to like split up from an actual relationship. Though that's what he was pretending it was.
It's as if your girlfriend came home one day covered in dirt and blood, and she told you like 30 different stories, and they didn't make any sense. And you're like, okay, we're gonna stop this right now.
You're like, I'm just gonna keep thinking about it. I don't know if I like it or not.
And then like by the end of the video, he completely switches it. So he's still going for like the taking art, but the way he talks about it, he's still like he's in love with it or something. Oh god, that video is terrible.
All right, we got a minute left. Let's keep going.
Been what it is and what it will be over the next.
What it will be.
So again, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for holding out and giving me time to process the film and have my thoughts on it. And I really hope that you guys love the video. And if you feel this way, if you agree with me, please share it around. It always helps.
I like it because it's a mess.
To share videos like on Reddit and stuff, on Twitter.
All right,
I love it the way
we're done.
I love it the way that Kylo loves Rey,
but doesn't actually. It's in my head, and I wish I could see that, but it's not. So I'm going to watch this movie for the next year.
Yes,
hoping it happens. Hoping I can.
I really
connect this crap.
I appreciate this kind of video because I, as a fan, need another confused fan to relate to.
He could have done this in 2 hours on a notepad, typing out his thoughts and going, I'm really confused. I shouldn't actually commit this to film because this is stupid.
He should have watched the video before he released it and been like, What am I saying? I'm not saying anything.
I hate it. I love it. I'm confused by it. I wish it was something else. Good Lord. What a mess.
And I like that. I like that all of that stuff is going on. It's like, someone shot my foot off. That's interesting and new.
It's unique.
Anyway.
Anywho, that was not too bad. It was kind of fast and rambly.
Mess.
Well,
that was fun on my behalf.
Yeah,
as long as you guys had fun. I was
enjoyed it. Yeah,
enjoying you guys.
We had better discussions just between us about CGI and other things.
Well,
than
yeah.
Watching this video.
For sure. I mean, calling scenes dumb, big dumb fans. Wait,
Galaxy brain.
Like, whoa. Look out, sir.
This is big brain time.
It's adjective. Now,
I would love
adjective.
to. I have this sick idea in my head where I want to take critics and I want to give them like a stipend. Like, here's X amount of $1,000. Go make a movie, and we all get to watch it and critique it, and you get to feel what you're doing, and we get to see how actually knowledgeable you are in what you're talking about. And I know it's like it's not the same thing, but I would just love to see what these people would come up with, because I frequently come across people that are critics that are like trying to get somewhere, like Patrick Willems or whatever, and they don't really understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to figure out with their videos.
They could pay an artist to do some storyboards, get some music to back it up, have a narrator. You know, it could work. It could happen. Yeah, totally happen.
But yeah, I'm gonna have a stream right now. I'm gonna be talking with Voice in the Radio and D Nelson, who requested talking about Inception. So that's gonna be going on my channel.
Cool.
Anybody that's on the stream wants to be there, we'll be over there. And
just to point out, Glib's channel's not in the description.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about that. It's
Let's
okay.
Put it in the chat at least. And
I'm overjoyed just to hang out.
Okay. Well, let's give me a link to your. I don't even know your.
I have a custom URL, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just put that in chat.
You get a custom URL. Yeah.
Is it Google friendly? I don't know. Sometimes those shortened URLs.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's if you. I think everybody can get it at a certain point. I don't know what point it is, but
I have no idea how to get it.
YouTube.com/C, and then it's another slash, and then it's whatever custom text you want it to be. So
okay, there it is, guys. You want to check out Glib's channel? He's been talking about Interstellar. Sorry, not Interstellar. What is it? Inception.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be talking about Inception.
Inception. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it the foghorns? What are they called?
I think those are like French horns that have a lot of distortion and compression on them.
Okay.
I love the film. Popularized the brrr every 5 seconds.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer, he's clever, man. He figured out that rhythm is really important, and he found a way to make chord progressions stand out amongst like very minimal melodies, so that each element you remember. And one of those things is the horns and those jump, 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 like every.
But now they're really overused.
Well, yeah,
because everybody copies them.
When you think of even Mass Effect, they have the horns as well with the Reapers. So
yeah,
everywhere you hear these big orc hits, but they're the brass section just going crazy. Just So thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you have any other suggestions, come on to Discord. Leave them in the suggestion channel. I always appreciate your ideas. And we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
See you.